Okay, we're good.
I think we're good. We just need a second to gather our materials.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Thank you all very much for your patience tonight. We are now back in from the workshop into regular session at 7:24. All trustees are present. Jesse Rodriguez and Vinnie McClure are joining us via Zoom. Webex. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. One of those two. So at this time, the Grapevine Independent School District Board of Trustees and the Central Administration, we will pause for a moment of silence to reflect on the continued successes of our district, the safety and well-being of our students, our dedicated teachers and staff, and our supportive community. Thank you all very much. Now at this time, we will have the U.S. and Texas pledges, and tonight we are honored to have students from iUniversity Prep join us to lead the pledges. Do we have those, Kyle, or we're going to start pulling them up? They will proudly represent their school by leading the U.S. pledge, followed by the Texas pledge, and then share their thoughts on how they are progressing towards the portrait of a graduate. So tonight we have Mallory Mahoney and Logan Lynn leading us in our pledges. Mallory is a sophomore and Logan is a fifth grader. There we go. So we are ready when y'all are. Just let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you both very much for joining us. It's so nice to be able to see students' faces, and y'all are so happy. Thank you very much. So we do have Mallory and Logan, and then leading the Portrait of a Graduate presentation tonight is Senior Ni Win. Are you with us? There you are.
Thank you for this opportunity to show how iUniversity Prep helps us become the portrait of a graduate. We have put together a video from 5 students to show how we are developing skills and engaging in each characteristic. Here's the video.
Hello, I'm Mallory James Mahoney, and I'm a sophomore at iUniversity Prep. My school has helped me to become a global citizen because even though I'm an actress on a TV show and I'm constantly having to go between Los Angeles and Texas, thanks to their flexible schedule and amazing online schooling, I'm able to not only stay caught up with my education, but also excel in my academics and maintain straight A's to help my wonderful teachers. iUniversity Prep has also been instrumental in my foreign correspondence because of their foreign language program. So far, I've taken multiple years of Spanish and currently in their American Sign Language course. By taking these classes, it has enabled me to converse with fans in their native tongue. I also had an episode with a co-star who was hearing impaired, and because of my knowledge in ASL, I was able to easily converse with her. I'm so grateful for this school. Hi, my name is Madison Fowler, and I'm an 11th grader at iUniversity Prep. Today I'm going to be talking about how iUniversity Prep taught me to be a skilled problem solver. And with being a skilled problem solver, it has taught me to have plans and goals. It's taught me to be practical, and it's also taught me to communicate. Communication is a very key thing in school in general, but in online school, it is a really top quality that you definitely want to take advantage of. And on top of being practical, relax. Every single problem you have most likely will be solved if you do the other thing of communicating. So never stress, and always know that iUniversity Prep has your back. Hi, my name is Logan Lynn, and I'm a 5th grader at iUniversity Prep. I'm an effective communicator because I'm encouraged by all of my teachers to speak on the live lesson microphone. I try my best to not make any mistakes on the mic. Talking clearly will help me become a more effective communicator in college.
Hi, my name is Dean Witten, and I'm a senior at iUniversity. Here at our virtual school, I've learned how to become a collaborative worker through live lessons and teacher feedback. In our weekly live lessons, students are encouraged to engage in conversations in which there are differing opinions. Through these discussions, I've learned how to respectfully disagree with someone while also working towards and attaining the same goal. School clubs such as iHoop, our school newspaper, have taught me how to collaborate with my peers virtual. Teacher feedback has taught me how to take criticism and improve myself as a student, both academically and personally.
Hello, my name is Miles White. I'm an 8th grader at iUniversity Prep, and this school has helped me become a self-regulated learner by kind of making me utilize my time wisely and making me kind of focus on the task at hand, because I've been doing this since I started 4th grade, and then my learning coach kind of had to help me all the time, really often, to like stay on task, not get distracted by like my phone and TV and stuff. But after a while of being at the school, I've learned to regulate my time, and I don't need to be helped nearly as much. I can do like the entire day and only ask for help with like a certain question on the quick check or something. And it's helped me kind of like want to stay on pace, not get very far behind.
iUniversity Prep has enabled me to be a self-regulated learner because even with my hectic going schedule because I'm a good trip, their flexibility has made it possible for me to achieve all of my academic dreams. Due to my schedule and the fact that I'm often traveling, I am required to be in charge of ensuring that I get my own schoolwork completed. By having this responsibility, I feel as though I've become a self-starter, and I know that I can achieve anything if I work hard at it.
When is that the end of your presentation? Yes, okay. I want to thank you all, and thank you to Dr. Kay Rogers, GCISD's Executive Director of Virtual Learning, and the students and staff at iUniversity Prep who helped with tonight's presentation. And again, I want to recognize you. I think all the way from Houston, we have Logan Lynn. Thank you for being here, Logan, and you are a very dapper dresser. And we have sophomore from Roanoke. Is that right, Mallory? Thank you so much for being with us also. And then we have senior, she's from Arlington, Nee Win. So thank you three for being with us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time. Dr. Rogers, do we have her on? Looking. Here we go.
Yes, and I have Desiree White with us. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Rogers. Do you have any other special guests I was looking to see on that you'd like to recognize tonight?
Absolutely. We have Desiree White, our Dean of Instruction, who is really one who has put all the work with our kiddos into making this video, and also Kelsey Matthews, our ELA teacher.
Thank you both very much. Thank you all for being with us tonight. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Ryan for the introduction of our recognitions this evening. Dr. Ryan?
Thank you very much. At first, the first thing we have is our LEAD 2.0 highlight, and it's at this point in every meeting that we have where we bring a report to the board and to the community about our second phase of the strategic plan, LEAD 2.0. This month we'll highlight a positive impact that our instructional technology team is having on the district, and certainly they are at work every single day and have been ever since before spring break, and this team has done a tremendous job. And for their introduction, I'll turn it over to our Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Kyle Berger. Kyle.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Tonight we have our Coordinator of Instructional Technology, Janie Statch, with us, as well as Dwight Goodwin, our Executive Director of Technology. They're going to go over some of the training and adjustments that we've done since COVID to share what we're having done in our classrooms, and then we'll have a couple of teachers kind of share some insight as well in what's happening. I'll turn it over to Janie.
Thanks, Kyle. I am going to present, and it's going to take me a second. Okay, I have presenter access now.
Are you able to share your screen, Janie?
I am having an issue. Sorry about that. Dwight, will you see if you can share your screen?
Give me a half second.
Sorry, guys.
No, mine's great. Mine's grayed out.
You've changed it over to presenter, Dwight.
Okay.
Fifth grade, and in Canvas for 6th through 12th grade in order to remove that barrier. Over the summer, our teachers participated in professional learning on these systems in addition to working to create Canvas courses and Seesaw activities to be used district-wide. So today, I'm happy that Dwight has been able to share his screen, and I'm also happy to introduce 3 of our teachers to talk about their experiences in professional learning and what these and other new technologies look like in the classroom for both our remote and in-person learners. So the presenters we have tonight, as we talk about Goal 1, which is actively identifying and removing barriers that limit access to and opportunity for learning, are Kate Adams and Mandy Reinen from Colleyville Heritage High School and India Main from Dove Elementary.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Adams, and I teach English at Colleyville Heritage High School. Here on your screen are some of my lovely students. Look at all those smiley faces. They're all so happy to be in English class. Today, I just want to specifically address how Webex, together with Canvas and the station rotation model of learning, has specifically helped me identify any barriers that my students might be experiencing, and then help them work together to come up with a solution to any problems they might be experiencing with their learning. Last year, our district provided training for us on the Catlin-Tucker model of station rotation, which is really just putting the kids into small groups, and then one of the groups works with the teacher on something while another group is working online, and another group can be working independently. And that way we get that small group face-to-face personalized instruction, and you can change how you group them based on what their needs are. And it's been something I've been struggling with being online and then having a hybrid model, and just this week with getting access to breakout sessions in Webex, we've been able to start stations again. So that's what these pictures are all from, us doing our stations. And this year, I have to say, our district has really helped me learn very quickly a lot of new technology skills. I never would have thought before that I could build such seamless Canvas modules and also integrate them with Webex so that all of my kids can be doing their individual stations and not have questions about what they should be doing. And we can focus on we can really focus in on the learning why they're learning those things. One of the things that I've learned during these breakout sessions was how to create modules in Canvas that are actually locked so that they have to work through the activities in sequential order. Dwight, can you go to the next slide, please? So on this next slide, there in the top corner, where it says Week 7 podcast plan, that's just a brief snapshot of one of my modules. And so you can see for the first assignment, they have to submit the assignment before it will let them move to the next one. And then on the discussion board, they have to contribute to that before it will let them move on. And then there's a page that says Monday work is complete, and then they can mark that as done to indicate that they have finished their work for the day. And I found that this feature on Canvas has really helped cut down on late and missing work that we struggled with before, because if there's only one thing the kids can work on at a time, there's no question of what should I be doing right now, or I don't know where to start. Like, there's only one place to start, and they have to do it in order. So that's been really helpful. Another thing has been I've been able to personalize my grading so much better, because in Canvas I can put specific feedback and then also the score. And when I sync it with Skyward, both the score and any of the feedback comments that I put in the comment section on Canvas, both of those things sync to Skyward. So that's been an exciting discovery. But also the most amazing thing for me really has been getting back to stations with my kids. And I've put in here just some examples of different things we've been doing in our stations. The kids have been collaborating on Google Docs and discussion boards, and we did some quiz reassessments together today where we talked through a grammar quiz that a lot of them were struggling with, and I was able to lock the module so that they had to get a 100% on the quiz before they moved on. And then we walked through it together and went through the correct answers on a Webex breakout, and I had them explain to me why that was the correct answer. And then as we moved through it, they all got their 100% and they were able to unlock that next station. We've done book talks where they provide a synopsis of what they're reading. I let them choose an independent reading book that they just want to read for fun. So they had to tell, what was happening, whether they enjoy something that's been annoying or frustrating, and then kind of rate their peers' books and say, oh, that sounds interesting because of this, or oh, I don't think I'd like that book because it sounds really sad. And it's been really good for them to get to interact and talk to one another about their independent reading books again, and just find a lot of meaning in what they're reading. Another thing we've been doing is team building with asking one another questions. We've played Never Have I Ever, and I really find that when we're in small groups, they're more likely to turn their cameras on. So if there's any teachers out there who are struggling to get your kids to turn their cameras on Webex, I highly recommend you try stations and break them out into those Webex sessions and jump in there with them and have them turn their cameras on and just play a game. I've found that makes them a lot more comfortable to open up and really engage Webex sessions. Another thing we've done is them being grammar practice, and they're able to talk to one another about where they're at and what they're doing and help each other problem solve and really be each other's tutors so that, you know, when I can't specifically meet with each kid one-on-one every single day, they have that peer support. And then as I'm popping in and out of their small groups, if there's anything that their peers aren't able to help them with, then I can hone in on those issues and help remove those barriers for them. One of the things I noticed about Goal 1 that we're talking about tonight is that it doesn't just say that our goal is to remove these barriers. Our goal says that we're supposed to also identify them. And I know a lot of teachers really struggle when we have, you know, 150 kids or more. I know some people even have more students than that. But it's really hard to know what each of your individual students need. And so combining Webex and Canvas and the station rotation model of learning has really helped me to take an active role in identifying and removing those barriers for my students. So that's what's happening in English class. And now Mandy's going to talk about what's happening in AP Physics.
All right, hello. This is a shot of my classroom. This is what we do every day. I've got Webex open on that big TV and on my laptop. So I'm able to screen share from my TV, so I can write real big for the kids in class so they can see it. But it's also showing up crisp and clear on the laptops at home. And I'm like not standing in front of a camera or anything, blocking their view. It shows up nice and clear. But I have my laptop on there. You can see it balanced on that box of Legos, my very professional laptop stand. But that is my like microphone and camera on me, so I can still face them and talk to them and use my hands to talk about like the gravity and whatever's going on. So on the next slide, there is a feature in Canvas I like, which is you can put things in there and not publish them yet. My AP kids were doing a lab to prove that gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, which they needed to do that with making a graph. And in the olden times, they would have flipped to the back of the packet and seen the graph paper and gone, oh, I should probably make a graph. But I didn't want them to do that. I wanted them to like work towards that and realize that themselves. So I was able to really quickly just like uncheck that module or that part of that module. So they didn't know they were building towards a graph until the second day. So that was nice, just to like force them to like go in the order I wanted. They couldn't flip to the end. So that was nice. And if we click ahead, you can see a picture of one of my students. She's actually performing the lab. And then on her laptop, you can't see very clearly, but she's got her 4 team members at home all contributing, and she's hollering out data points and they're typing it in. And then on the next day, that's when they make their graphs. And you can see their little cursors if we click one more. They're in a shared Google Doc, and so they're all able to like click and contribute, and the Webex is still on, so they can talk to each other, and why are you adding that column, and I thought we were going to graph this, and there's a lot of collaboration and team building, and I thought it was great. Webex breakout rooms plus Canvas is like gold. I'm never going back. It was great. Some other things we've been doing, if we click ahead, they had a test last week, and they, to get ready for it, I gave them access to all the questions from all their old quizzes, because they like to know, like, oh, I missed number 8. Show me how to do number 8. But I told them, I don't have a test next week. You do. So you show me how to do number 8. So I gave them the question and the answer, and they were assigned 2 questions to go in, and they had to make a video for their classmates on how to solve their problem. And you can see some of them were fancy and were like drawing in Microsoft Paint, and others just like held their graph up to the camera and pointed. So lots of different techniques and lots of different ways to explain the physics. I was very entertained with their word choice, but it was all accurate, and they could watch each other's videos to study for the test. So it wasn't just me explaining; they got to explain to each other like asynchronously on their own time. And just for the teachers in the room, you can embed a Flipgrid in Canvas and grade them in SpeedGrader, which I know that's a lot of gobbledygook if you don't use that every day, but it's amazing and I love it. And this next screenshot is from one of our professional development options from the summer. We all had to do like growing with Canvas and eTeach 101. And then for our last like little bit, we could choose from like 3 options, and this is the one I picked. It was a badging course, which I would not normally describe myself as a person that like actively seeks out how to learn new technology. Like I let it come to me, like I don't rush it. But seeing these badges, like some are lit up because I've done it and some are grayed out. And how can I light that up? What training do I need to do? I'm going to do it. Got to get them all. Because I'm definitely going to be using this in AP review time in the spring. Like we're going to have 1 badge per unit, and I'm not quite sure what they're going to do to earn their badges, but there's leaderboards. It's going to be a good time. So that's what's going on in my AP physics classroom.
Hi everyone, my name is India Main and I am a proud kindergarten teacher at Dove Elementary, and I'm going to take you back down, just a little bit down to elementary, talk about instructional technology, specifically kindergarten. So if you haven't visited a kindergarten classroom, especially lately, this would be a good opportunity for you to kind of get a peek inside our classroom to see what is going on. So the first thing that we did this summer was the district really wanted to focus on streamlining our learning management system by getting kindergarten through 5th grade to be using Seesaw. So some options that we had for educators in order to get trained was to become a Seesaw pioneer or a Seesaw ambassador. Once you've become a pioneer, you can apply after a few years to become an ambassador. The next thing that we took on as our focus, can you go back one more slide? I'm sorry, Dwight. Thank you. Our focus as a district was in a campus was to make sure that our families and our students were trained in the iPads and knowing what they were doing. So I told you that I teach kindergarten, and so majority of my kids have not been to school, and if they had been to school, they missed March through May, like all of our students. So they did not have a lot of opportunity to learn how to use an iPad independently, how to log into Seesaw, maybe not even use Webex. So that was a really important opportunity for us as a campus to make sure that our families knew how to access Webex and Seesaw and ClassLink, and those are the most 3 important things that we're using on a daily basis. And we really wanted to make sure that not only our 5-year-olds knew how to do it, but their families as well, because they're going to be our partners. They're going to be our support when we're not home with them. And so we really wanted to make sure that everyone knew how to utilize and truly understand the technology that we're given to them. So the next slide will show that we focus on Webex. So I am currently teaching virtual students. So I've got 20 little darlings that visit me multiple times a day, and those sweet babies come to me to learn math, reading, writing, science, social studies, foundations, anything that you're learning in school, they're learning with me on Webex. So we spend 100% of our learning and working time on our iPad, and that's a lot of time to learn on your iPad. So I focus most of my instruction in whole group with all my darlings, and then I also have time throughout my day where I pull small groups, and I really get to hone in and focus on the specific needs of my students. So the example on the left is my whole class giving me a smile Monday morning, and then the one on the right is me working with kids on how to write their letters correctly and what letters those were and what sounds they make. And so that was our independent focus for the needs of those particular students. On the next slide, we will see Seesaw, which is something that we use every day, multiple times a day. And in case you haven't seen what Seesaw looks like, these are just a few examples of what my students have been doing. I've been using Seesaw for 3, maybe 4 years now. I'm actually a Seesaw ambassador, but every year I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, they really can do these things. Like they're 5 and they can do these things. But this year I'm honestly shocked at what they're doing, because normally I'm in there hand over hand, like, nope, push this button, nope, push this button, nope, go back, hit the other button. And this year they're doing it all from home. And I know their parents are there supporting them, but they're truly learning what to do. They have to go into ClassLink. They have to find Seesaw, open the little light bulb, which is their activity, click to see which one we're talking about, how to do it, and then correctly do it, and then submit it for me to successfully see and be able to grade. So these are just a few examples of some things that my kids are working on this year. We're talking about science, properties of objects. They're taking pictures of things. They're building and explaining graphs. They're learning how to read and write sight words. They are recording their options. The videos that are on the side, which I understand will not be playing today and tonight, if you get a chance to go back and listen to them, they're pretty awesome, because the top video is a video of a student who has taken their writing from the day. They've done it on pen and paper or pencil with paper, because we really feel like that's an important fine motor skill for our kids to develop. And they've taken a picture of it, uploaded it into Seesaw, and then recorded telling me what their writing says. And if you've seen 5-year-old writing, sometimes you need that recording piece to tell you exactly what it says, because their imagination is a little bit bigger than mine. And so this writing sample is actually a very good writing sample, and you won't need your imagination, but listening to a 5-year-old explain their writing and explain how excited they are is definitely something that you'll want to listen to. They are definitely proving to be problem solvers and effective communicators and just self-regulated learners through this whole process. The next slide is our New Line board. So if you are unfamiliar with the New Line board, thank you. Our campus received our New Line board in January, and it's this massive TV, as my kids call it. Look at the TV, we have a TV in our classroom. I'm like, kinda. And so our TV, our New Line board, was a huge learning curve for teachers. I was excited about it, but I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And so, like most 5-year-olds, I started pushing buttons and learning to see what I could do, and found lots of different options of what I could do. But the best thing that my kids enjoyed doing with it was demonstrating in front of their friends that they can do things, and they wanted to show off to all their friends that they could do it in front of everybody. I wish I had pictures of their smiles just to show like how excited they truly are showing off what they know. But this year it looks a little different for me currently, since I am teaching the virtual students. So I am using it as more of a whiteboard. So I'm able to project a slide, or I'm able to show something on the New Line board and actually interact with it. So you'll see some examples of us doing some math problems of ways to make the number 2, or comparing numbers. And then you'll also see me actually writing sight words and word family words in there as well. So our New Line board is exactly, not exactly how I used it before in the past, but it's something that I still use every day, and I'm thankful for the technology.
Thank you, India, Mandy, and Kate. We wanted to leave you tonight with some teacher quotes and some parent quotes. I'll just read a couple of the teacher quotes because I know we have gone over our time, but students are mastering Canvas and Webex. I've been able to teach my kids so much because of our amazing tech team. That's from Tabitha Weeks at Cross Timbers Middle School. And from Tova Woodcock, Seesaw has been a powerful tool for our students. Seesaw has allowed us to engage all students in a variety of engaging activities. It's not only user-friendly, but has allowed teachers to design high-quality lessons. And then, Dwight, if you'll go to the next slide, there are a couple of parent quotes. One is about the Skyward to Canvas connection. This is from a Cross Timbers parent, and the connection between Skyward and Canvas makes it so easy to find my children's missing assignments. There's a link in Skyward that goes directly to each missing assignment in Canvas. And then from Glen Hope, my son is remote and has gained a lot of experience in emailing his teachers. He reaches out to them to ask clarifying questions, and I can't help but think about how this is preparing him for college. So that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for your time. And I wanted to see if you had any questions. Also, I would like to clarify that the reason I couldn't share my screen was user error. Sometimes we blame the technology when it is actually the human's fault. And I recently got a new laptop and I didn't have my system preferences set correctly. So that was coordinator error.
Well, thank you for being honest with us. And great presentation from all of you. Thank you so much. And do we have any questions from the trustees? Becky?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. This is Becky. I love the feedback that you teachers are giving about the enthusiastic parts about this, because I think especially sometimes as parents in particular, it feels, I mean, we're not even in the classroom, so it's incredibly overwhelming. I would hope that maybe our principals would consider adding some of this teacher voice to some of the newsletters, because, for example, as a parent, I did not know how some of these features are helping y'all get your grading completed, how turning on or off those assignment access points helps you manage your classroom. And I would love to see that kind of pushed out to parents more, so that they can understand why y'all are doing things the way you're doing. And I'm glad to hear that some of these things are working the way that, you know, it's helping you manage your classroom. So from kindergarten all the way up to those AP classes at the high school. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky. Any other questions? And I'm sorry, I need to remember I've got Jesse and Mindy. I just can't see them. So if y'all have a question, unmute and go ahead and ask, if you would, please. Can't see them up there.
I've got a quick question. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I like how you're using the technology. Now, I know it's some teachers have struggled with understanding how all the features in Canvas and Seesaw and how they all work and how they're integrated and are learning. And once they get over a certain curve, it seems to be they seem to really like it. Now, the three of you that presented, I'm guessing that you're kind of super users on your campus and kind of help out some of the other teachers. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that I'm a super user. I'm just somebody who has figured out who those people are, and I've been definitely jumping in their Webexes and learning from them, and then passing on what I do know. But there's definitely people on our campus who are way more experts at this than I am.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Thank you.
Again, any other questions? Again, thank you all very much for giving us your time tonight and for all that you do at school. We know it's not an easy time, so thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
I would also thank our teachers. They, I mean, we heard from kindergarten, we heard from high school, and the reality is today is the first day of the fourth week of trying to do both in-person and remote. And so we've had so many people grow so much over the last several weeks, and I think we can, you know, I mean, that was a fantastic presentation. It's clearly, we're not perfect. Clearly, it's not everybody has the same experience, but I think that we're getting better all the time, and I think within a month, you're going to see a lot more people growing, and some of the names of the quotes here were from people when I was the principal at Colorado Heritage. So it's not just the people that are intuitive, that are digital natives. It's all kinds of folks that are learning how to do this, and I was thrilled to see that as well. I heard a couple of quotes. One, "I'm never going back," is what one of the teachers said. Another one said, describing March the 6th as back in olden times. And I think that really that's an example of what we're talking about, of people trying to really do the best that they can and change along with the times. There are going to be some things that whenever this particular pandemic has run its course, there are going to be things that we go back to. But there are going to be a lot of things that we never go back to, that we learn are actually more efficient and better ways to do it. And what I heard from Indy and from Andy and from Kate are they were great examples. Also, thank you to Dwight, and thank you to Janie for proving that we all can be human, and especially the people that do this every day. I mean, I know she was horrified because I've been there before when you're trying to do something and everybody else is waiting on you, but that's just kind of how things are, and I think people are growing patient, and they give grace to people when it doesn't work exactly right. So fantastic presentation representing all the staff of GCISD. Next, we'll get into our recognitions this evening. First of all, we're going to recognize 15 GCISD seniors who have been named National Merit Scholarship semifinalists by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Selection for this prestigious honor is based on the student scores on the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test of the PSAT. GCISD's National Merit semifinalists are part of an elite group of students representing fewer than 1% of U.S. high school seniors who show exceptional academic ability and potential for success in rigorous college studies. These academically talented students have the opportunity to continue the program and compete for scholarships that will be offered next spring. And over the past 10 years, GCISD has celebrated the recognition of 174 National Merit semifinalists, with 104 of those coming in the last 5 years. So, students, when I call your name, make sure you unmute your microphone, and then let us know what school you attend and what your plans are after graduation. We are assuming that you're going to go ahead and graduate from GCISD. I think that's a safe assumption. So joining us tonight, first of all, we've got Catherine Brigham. Catherine.
Hi. I go to Grapevine High School, and my plans after graduation would be to major in finance.
Thank you, Catherine. Next, we have Brooke Butler.
Hi, I studied at College of Heritage, and my plan after graduation is to major in business.
Thank you, Brooke. Next, we have Tim Desimone. Okay, Tim, congratulations to you. Next, we have Grant Gormley.
I go to Grapevine High School. My plans after graduation, I think I'm going to major in biochemistry.
Thank you, Grant. Next, we've got Nicholas Heredia.
Hi, I go to GHS, and my plans after high school are to either do major in pure math or biomedical engineering.
Thank you, Nicholas. Next, we have Elizabeth Hoff.
Hi, I go to Colleyville Heritage High School, and my plans after high school are to major in biology.
Congratulations, Elizabeth. Next, we have Ashwin Kata.
Hi, I go to Colleyville Heritage High School, and my plans after graduation is to major in biomedical engineering and then hopefully pursue medicine.
Congratulations. Next, we have Catherine Larimer.
Hi, I go to Colleyville Heritage High School, and my plans after graduation are to major in biology, and I also will be pursuing fencing in college.
That's pretty interesting right there. All right, next we got Cade Miller.
Hi, I go to Colleyville Heritage, and I am planning to major in computer science.
Congratulations, Cade. And next we have Caden Miller.
Hi, I go to Colleyville Heritage High School, and I am planning to major in electrical and computer engineering.
All right, congratulations. Next we have Mitchell Miners.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm attending GHS, and I plan to major in physics.
Congratulations, Mitchell. Next we have Jack Rogers.
Figure out what I want to major in. And I'm still trying to figure out what I want to major in.
That's okay. All right, congratulations, Jack. Next we have Mia Sturzer.
I go to Colleyville Heritage High School, and I plan on majoring in biomedical engineering after graduation.
Congratulations, Mia. Next, we have Kendrick Yamamoto.
My name is Kendrick Yamamoto, and I go to Colleyville Heritage High School. I plan on majoring in mechanical engineering, and I hope to go into the field of robotics.
Congratulations, Kendrick. We also had one student that was unable to join us tonight from Colleyville Heritage High School, Carolyn Gao. And so congratulations to Carolyn. We certainly want to congratulate her. Also want to thank our Grapevine High School principal, Alex Fingers, and our Colleyville Heritage High School principal, Dr. James Whitfield, for their leadership. And thank you for joining us tonight. And congratulations again to all of our National Merit semifinalists. And thank you very much for being patient and for joining us tonight. And congratulations again for your success. And we look forward to a fantastic senior year. Next, we're pleased to have the opportunity to recognize special friends of the district through the TASB Business Recognition Program. The Texas Association of School Boards initiated this annual program in 2014 to recognize the general assistance provided to districts by businesses and other community organizations. And here in GCISD, we know the value of the help that we receive from these businesses and are deeply appreciative of these partnerships. And tonight, we're going to be recognizing three different segments. First up is Wise Guys Pizzeria. Tonight's represented by its owner, Kevin McNamara. Wise Guys was nominated for the TASB Business Recognition Program by O.C. Taylor Elementary and Principal Lisa Petavilla. Wise Guys Pizzeria has hosted Spirit Nights for O.C. Taylor, in which they give 50% of the profits from the night back to the school, and Kevin's spoken to the O.C. Taylor students numerous times about his career in owning a restaurant. He's donated child aprons and other cooking supplies for the school's future exploration program. And Wise Guys has also hosted O.C. Taylor's faculty Christmas party. And so we now have Kevin and Lisa. Is Kevin with us tonight?
Well, he should be. I've spoken with him. He is at the baseball field with his son, but he is one of those outstanding Grapevine Colleyville community members that is so helpful, not only together, just the entire community. And I just really appreciate him and his dedication, what he does for education and helping our community. So thank you, Kevin. If you're hearing from the baseball field tonight, we appreciate all you do for us.
Lisa, thanks so much. I appreciate it. What a true honor it is just to be a part of this community and just do what we can just in a small way to partner with GCISD.
Well, thank you. You've made a huge difference. I know at our school, like Dr. Ryan said, just the impact you've had on our own campus and what you've done not only for our faculty, but what you do for our students and in our future explorations program and teaching them about running a business and running a restaurant and all that you've given our students. And you have amazing food and pizza. If you haven't been to Wise Guys, you need to try that.
Thanks so much, Lisa. We really appreciate the partnership.
Thank you, Lisa, and congratulations again to Kevin, and thank you so much for your leadership in our community as well as your generosity to our schools. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Next, we'd like to recognize Spring Creek Barbecue, which is represented tonight by Spirit Night Coordinator Summer Deathample. Spring Creek was nominated for the TASB Business Recognition Program by Grapevine Elementary and by Principal Nancy Hale. Spring Creek offers at least 2 nights each school year for Grapevine Elementary, and at these events, the campus has the opportunity to earn upwards of $1,000, and Spring Creek also honors all GES staff who work that night with a free meal and gift card to return. Additionally, they award the 3 classes with the top attendance with Spring Creek T-shirts, gift cards, and other Spring Creek gear. And now we have Nancy and Summer here joining us. Congratulations, Summer. Thank you for being with us. And Nancy, thank you for joining us and for the nomination of Spring Creek Barbecue.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say we so appreciate everything that Spring Creek Barbecue does. They provide each campus, and I know many in our district take advantage, 2 nights, normally one in the fall and one in the spring, where we can go and have dinner together and enjoy just the community, but also is a phenomenal give back night. So I think each time Grapevine Elementary has done a fundraiser night there, we've made at least $1,000, and that is a huge impact on a campus. That allows us to do a lot of different things. Last year, we earmarked all of that money for classroom libraries. We were able to really amp up our books and get a lot more books in hands, which we know is really important in reading and writing workshop. And we just could not be thankful enough to Summer and her team for all that they do and provide for us. Not only do we get a monetary donation back to the campus that we can use for whatever we deem necessary, but they normally have at least 2, sometimes 3 classes that are winning, and each of those students in those classes, so upwards of 60 students, all get a gift card to return. They get a T-shirt to wear to get free ice cream. I think they normally, Summer get a keychain, and Summer will come and do our morning announcements and recognize the kids, which they really love. So we just appreciate you, Summer, and all that Spring Creek does to give back to the students in GCISD.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you on behalf of Chris Carroll and all of, the people that help out with this team. It's really become something that we look forward to as well. I don't know how many of you know much about Becky Carroll, but she's the one who started this program back in early 2000, I guess it was, and kind of created this with the help of Shelley at the time. And so this became her baby, and we lost her a few years back. So this is kind of something that we continue in her legacy, which we love so much, and it's a big deal to Chris. And, after all of this pandemic happened and everything that we've been going through, it was like, are we going to be able to do this? And he was very much adamant about, we've got to be there for these people. We've got to let them know we're still part of the community, and very much appreciate all the partnerships that we've gotten in the past. So thank you very much for this nomination, and we're so excited to still be in the game and hopefully to continue to do this for many years to come.
Thank you, Summer, and thank you, Nancy, and congratulations again to Spring Creek Barbecue.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize Schroeder Orthodontics, which is represented tonight by Bree Croucham. Dr. Schroeder's Orthodontics was also nominated for the TASB Business Recognition Program by Grapevine Elementary School and Principal Nancy Hale. Schroeder provided a grant for bookshelves and organizational materials in a GES kindergarten class and provided a grant for furniture in a 2nd grade class and also a grant for a hydroponic indoor garden in a 4th grade classroom. And Dr. Schroeder sponsored the Grapevine Elementary digital sign on Hall Johnson in combination with the GES PTA. So we do have Bree with us, and of course, Nancy Hale is with us from GES. Thank you very much, Nancy, for your nomination.
Absolutely. I cannot say enough positive things as well about Schroeder Orthodontics, and I know that Grapevine Elementary is just one of the schools that benefits from all of their generosity as a district. We absolutely love their spring grant writing program that encourages all of our students to write grants and to just dream up what they might want in their classrooms. And so over the last several years, we have been honored to be recipients of several of those things that Dr. Ryan just mentioned that have benefited our students. And the hydroponic indoor garden wall was one just last spring, right before we went remote. So that is in the process of being purchased, and I just cannot wait to see that and see the impact that has for our 4th grade scientists. Mrs. Kernu has been eager to get that started in her classroom, so we'll be tweeting out pictures when that comes, but just so grateful for Schroeder and all of the support that they provide and the opportunities that they give for our students to stretch their thinking, to challenge themselves, and also create great lasting educational memories as well.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Bree, for joining us, and thank you again to Dr. Jesse Schroeder and for Schroeder Orthodontics, a longtime supporter of GCISD. Speaking of great partners, the next group we'd like to recognize is the Women's Division of the Grapevine Chamber of Commerce. Joining us on this meeting, we have Nancy Cable, Chair of the Women's Division, and Kim Darris, who organizes their school supply drive, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The Women's Division is a part of the Grapevine Chamber of Commerce and has more than 100 current members who are each dedicated to serve their community. The Women's Division has been providing school supplies to GCISD since the mid-1980s, when the daughter of one of its members told her mom that a classmate didn't have their school supplies. And the exact total number of students the Women's Division has helped since the 80s is somewhat elusive, but it's a whole bunch of our students. It's certainly numbers in the tens of thousands. And so in 2012, the Women's Division joined the first back-to-school fair. And in the last 9 years, they've donated more than $262,000 worth of school supplies to the Connect Back to School Fair. This year, the Women's Division ordered 1,407 school supply packs for pre-K through 12th grade and distributed them as part of the special drive-through Back to School Fair. Remember, we had to reimagine our Back to School Fair due to COVID, and the Women's Division stepped up and provided over 1,400 school supply packs for the drive-through back-to-school fair. Again, Nancy and Kim are here with us tonight, and they represent over the over 100 members of the Women's Division of the Grapevine Chamber. We sincerely thank them for all their support. Nancy and Kim, would you like to say a few words?
This is Nancy. There I am. Hi. Just thank you. It's a great partnership, the Women's Division. We love to give back to the community, and especially to the students at GCISD. So it's one of our passions. It's an expensive passion. So I know our Great Taste was canceled this year, along with our Elves on the Run, our two big money makers. So hopefully next year we can supply even more things. We work great with Cindy, Ryan, and Connect, and everybody that puts that back to school fair together. So thank you. I love the partnership, and it will definitely continue.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hi, this is Kim. I
Go
just
ahead,
want
Kim.
to say thank you for taking the time to recognize this evening. This is a passion of every single member of the Women's Division. This is what we really enjoy doing. We enjoy raising the funds. We enjoy all the work that is part of organizing this big project. And it is an honor to serve these students and to serve this community.
Well, we're so appreciative of the work of the Women's Division, and I just can't imagine how horrible it must feel if you're a child who is sitting there with no school supplies at the beginning of the year, and the person right next to you has this great big pack of school supplies. And the Women's Division and the Connect Back to School Fair has made it so that every single child has what they need to be successful just as much as anybody else across the GCISD. It's a fantastic mission, and we certainly appreciate the partnership from the Women's Division. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Next, we'd like to recognize that October of 2020 is Principals Month in Texas and throughout the nation. And as we know, school leadership is vital to the success of all students. And we have outstanding principals in GCISD, and we appreciate the important role they play in ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education in a safe and supportive environment. And our principals, they support our students, our teachers, parents, and community every single day. It's reassuring to see that the state of Texas and the nation recognize and appreciate principals' leadership and make the effort to inform all in our community of the roles that these principals play. We have outstanding principals, so please join us, not just during Principals Month, the month of October, but each and every day in recognizing the positive contributions that your secondary and elementary school leaders have made on the student achievement in Texas. I know tonight we met with our principals and went over our campus improvement plans for the year, and then we turned them loose to go hopefully get some rest and come back to school tomorrow. But we know that in the time of COVID, leadership has been so important, and the leadership of our campus principals has just been fantastic. And I just want to say hats off to our principals as they continue on this journey with us and have a fantastic Principals Month, the month of October. At this time, we're going to be joined now virtually by the Executive Director of the Grapevine-Colleyville Education Foundation, Sue Franks, for the annual Foundation report. Sue, are you with us? Sue, you there? We'll be patient. We'll wait just another minute, and then we'll...
Can we go on to keep working on it and go on to the open forum and maybe come back?
I think that's a good idea. And if we need to bump this to October, I'm sure that Sue will be glad to do that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So at this time, this concludes the recognition part of the evening.
Indeed.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to open forum, and I do believe I'll turn that now over to Trustee Noel, and I believe we had someone sign up.
Thank you. We do have one person who signed up for the open forum tonight. Next on the agenda is the open forum section of our board meeting. Any person who is not scheduled on the agenda may address the board during open forum by completing the request to speak form and submitting it to the Executive Director of Communications prior to the meeting. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board is restricted from discussing or taking action on items presented during the open forum if the item is not listed on tonight's agenda. If any issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, board members may respond to comments when the agenda item is considered. In addition, this is not the forum the district has provided to raise and resolve complaints about individual employees or students. We request that persons speaking in an open forum on items not on the agenda refrain from raising complaints against such individuals or personally identifying them in any way in their remarks unless it is pursuant to the district's grievance policies. Please contact the appropriate administrator to address your comments or concerns. There's generally a 3-minute time limit on individual presentations. If groups wish to speak on the same topic, the board may ask, but is not required, that a spokesperson be appointed to speak for the board. The board president may extend additional time at her discretion or shorten the allowed time for each speaker to not less than 2 minutes if the speaking requests are so numerous as to hinder the orderly conduct of the board's meeting on pending business. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of the group, may do so at this time. I see that our speaker tonight is Mr. Jeremy Goldsberry. Mr. Goldsberry, you're welcome to start your comments as soon as Mr. Berger moved over. And when you start, just please state your full name and address and your comments. Thank you.
Okay. I got audio. I don't know if video is working, but
we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jeremy Goldsberry. I live at 204 Millwood Drive in Colleyville, Texas, 76034. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear me speak this evening. Recently, myself and my family contracted COVID-19, and I learned a lot over the last 2 to 3 weeks. We had a few disagreements between my family and the school board staff, but I just want to come up with 3 to 4 takeaways that hopefully everybody can learn from, and then hopefully we can improve upon as the school board and the staff here. So the first takeaway that I learned was that a lot is rapidly changing over the course of this COVID-19, and that includes CDC guidance, and the guidance is changing on the website. So what I found was there are constant updates, and one of the latest updates is as of 10 September. And the takeaway here is parents often will reference the fall 2020 draft guide. And I think what needs to happen is that draft guide needs to be updated regularly, if not weekly, and then sending that back out via the website or passing that information through the school nurses so that they are up to speed with the latest and greatest. There are updated when to quarantine guidance on the CDC website. And I know one of the issues that a lot of parents are facing is quarantine timelines. And that includes well beyond the 14 days up to 24, 28 days. So I ask that if you just look at the scenarios, it'll help understand those timelines. And then I also ask that the school board staff trust what the parents say. So that includes when first symptoms occurred, when self-quarantine has occurred within a household. And again, I think a lot of that can be resolved. There's additional information on the CDC website for people that are COVID positive, and then when they can return to the workplace and what happens when they are exposed again. And that data, I believe, needs to be updated on the fall 2020 draft guide as well. Really will help alleviate a lot of questions that parents are asking, and it will reduce the burden on the nursing staff. I know our nurses are working hard overtime actually, and they don't have all the answers. But I think if that draft guide is updated, it will alleviate a lot of questions. I also believe that information needs to be updated and provided to our GCISD nursing staff on a weekly basis so that they have the answers. I'm noticing that different nurses in different schools have good answers, or maybe they don't have the answers, but they can get that if it's updated regularly. And then really the last takeaway is if there's ever discrepancy between the school board staff, parents, and or the Tarrant County Public Health, realize that there is Tarrant County Public Health investigators, and they case files. And so any discrepancies can be resolved via referencing a case file that's provided through the Tarrant County Public Health. So I know it's a lot of information there, but I think it can get better. I think that the GCISD staff can disseminate that information on a more timely basis, and that will help a lot of parents and answer a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsberry. That concludes our open forum section of the board meeting.
Thank you very much, Doug. We'll move on to the reports of the superintendent. Item A is the health update for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, as we begin the reports of the superintendent the last few months, the first item that we've had is just an update on the health situation from our Director of Health Services, Amy Taldo. And I see Amy is joining us tonight. And so, Amy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan, members of the board. I just wanted to go over the metrics that Tarrant County has set out for safer in-person instruction. We talked about it at last board meeting and just wanted to give an update on those metrics and compare them to from last month to this month. So on August 24th, the positivity rate, which Tarrant County really likes for it to be less than 10, ideally less than 5%. On August 24th, it was 9%. Today, it is also at 9%. So we've stayed very stable in the positivity rate for about a month now. The new cases, Tarrant County really prefers them to be less than 2,000 per week. And on August 24th, those cases were 2,051. Today, they are 2,431. So we're not quite meeting that mark just yet. And in the 4-week, overview of stable or declining case counts, we were doing really well from 9/5 through 9/19, and then last week happened. And we went up from 9/19, there was 1,351 cases, and then of course this last week there were 2,431. Some of that increase could be from the tail end of Labor Day and all the activities that were happening out in Labor Day. I will be very interested to see if we start to decline again over the next couple of weeks. One of the other metrics is COVID-like illnesses that the emergency rooms are seeing. On August 24th, that percentage was 2.1%. Today, it is 1.9%. The last one that they have as a metric for safer in-person instruction is hospitalization. On August 24th, it was 9%, and today it is 7%. So the metrics are holding fairly steady. And we are seeing a little bit of decline, a little bit of increase in case numbers, but again, that could be just the tail end of Labor Day weekend. From the beginning, when we started in-person learning, the week of September 7th, we had 6 cases and on 3 campuses and 26 contacts. The week of September 14th, we had 5 cases on 5 campuses and 24 contacts. And then again, last week happened, and the week of 9/21, we had 23 cases on 8 campuses, resulting in 88 contacts. So I'm really looking forward to the numbers hopefully going back down and or stabilizing a little bit. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Amy, so much. Trustees, do we have any questions? I'm seeing Becky.
Amy, this is Becky. So when you are saying contacts, you're meaning those are the close contacts and those are the people or the student, I guess people, students or staff, who have had to quarantine?
Yes, ma'am.
Amy, I'm sorry, would you give those numbers again on we had 6 cases in August, 5 cases, and I'll make sure I have my numbers right, and then 23 as of this last week?
Yes, ma'am. So on the week of September 7th, we had 6 cases on 3 campuses that resulted in 26 contacts. The week of September 14th, we had 5 cases, 5 campuses that resulted in 24 contacts. And last week, September 21st, we had 23 cases on 8 campuses, or over 8 campuses, that resulted in 88 contacts.
Thank you, Amy, for repeating that. We have other questions for Amy? Let me look at Jesse. Yeah.
I have a question.
Look like Jesse was. Yes, Jorge, I'm sorry.
Do we know how we compare to other districts? I mean, do we run those kind of numbers, see how we do versus others?
I currently do not, but I can. If they publish theirs on the on their website like we do, then I would be able to access that information.
And remember that the state does have a database that we're reporting weekly, and it's every school district in the state of Texas. So.
Yes, sir.
So do they have a table comparing districts?
You can search it, and you can.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Becky? Amy, this is Becky again. So, because I actually did look at Tarrant County's dashboard today, and just looked at some of the other districts around us, and some of them are doing better and some of them are doing worse. How do your numbers figure in? Are your numbers exactly what Tarrant County has? I'd have to pull up their dashboard right now to see. But they get their numbers from us, correct?
I report every positive case and their contacts to Tarrant County. And then the metric numbers that I mentioned earlier, those come straight from Tarrant County. And so their dashboard would be based off of what I report to them.
Okay, because they operate more in a case per, what, 100,000, I think is it? Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
okay. Okay, yeah, and like I said, some districts, some really close to us look great, some look worse than us, so it was really difficult to kind of ascertain any particular pattern, especially since we all kind of frequent the same places too. Yeah, so thank you, Amy. I appreciate everything you and your staff are doing.
Thank you.
Amy, those 23 cases, and I know we've received some reports that some of these were, we've had some positives on our remote students. Do any of these 23, are those remote or are those all in person?
Some of those are remote, and I can get you a breakdown if you would like.
I'd be curious what that would be. If I'd certainly, the last thing I want to do is put any more work on you. So it really, I will tell you, is not necessary, but I was just curious. I can actually go back and figure that out on the 23 cases, but I think the last thing we would want to do right now is put any more on your plate than what you have. So we do appreciate all that you and your nurses and are doing to keep us updated on all this, all of our numbers. So,
Lisa?
Yes, Jesse.
Amy, I was just, if I heard correctly, you mentioned that this past week of the 21st, when we had the 23 cases, and to Lisa's point, of those that are remote, are those included in those 8 campuses, or those students that were remote weren't necessarily tied to a campus yet with these numbers?
When I report to Tarrant County, they do ask what campus, and so I do report that they're a remote learner from a particular campus. So they are tied to a campus, and I can quickly look and give you who is remote.
It's okay. I was just curious to find out if indeed the 8 campuses, if the remote cases were tied to those 8 that we have on there. So, okay. Then my second question is that based on the numbers, you thought that this might be remnants of Labor Day. Would that be the case if for some reason this week stays about the same, or if it goes up, would you attribute some of that to Labor Day as well?
No, at that point I would probably look at basically what we call epidemiological links. If we have a case and possibly some of the contacts then became positive, and looking at that type of spread at that point. Because it would be well past the 14 days from Labor Day weekend.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I was curious in terms of that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions for Amy?
I do.
Doug?
Amy, have we had to change our guidelines based on the new information from on how COVID spreads and doesn't spread, and that includes quarantines and space requirements for students, shields, surfaces versus airborne particles?
A lot of our guidelines are still holding very true with the CDC. And as far as 14-day quarantine for those contacts and a 10-day isolation for those that test positive. And it's very individualized. And I think some of the confusion may come from when we look at a case, we look at it very individually and we look at everything surrounding that case. And so decisions are made, and Tarrant County is brought in. I talked to Josh probably 2 to 3, sometimes more than that, times a day, just to run things by and clarify things. Is there something new? I'm hearing this. Is that now documented somewhere? And he keeps us very up to date. And so our guidelines are still holding very true.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We're good. Seeing none. Again, Amy, thank you so much. And thank you for giving us your time tonight.
My pleasure.
We'll move on to item B. Consider and act on adoption of an order authorizing defeasance and redemption of a portion of Grapevine Colleyville's Independent School District's unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds from the series of 2011. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, thank you. We have our CFO, Dan Mooney, joining us by Webex. And Dan, I'll let you introduce this particular item. And then, of course, we have Josh that is here with us as well. Diane?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ron. So that's a very long agenda item title for what we're asking you guys to do tonight. We're asking you guys to approve an order to authorize the district to prepay some Series 2011 bonds in the amount of $8,775,000. This will happen in February of 2021. This transaction will save future interest costs in the amount of $5,542,000. I do want to also mention that we are able to pay this bond off early while also reducing the 2020 debt service tax rate that was by 2 cents that was approved last month. And so I have Josh McLaughlin here from BOK just to kind of walk you through what you're approving tonight and answer any kind of questions you may have. So I'll pass it over to Josh.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to see you all again. I won't add much more than Ms. Mooney. So tonight we're asking the board to consider a order which will allow us to prepay 8.775 million of the district's 2011 bonds, which are currently outstanding at a 5% coupon rate. They mature in 2033 and 34, but the district, using its current year tax collections, will be able to prepay those bonds in February and save taxpayers $5,542,000. So just to give you an idea, the district has done this routinely over the years, as you well know. Assuming the district moves forward tonight, that will mean over the last 12 years, the district will have prepaid $56 million prior to final maturity, saving taxpayers just under $47.8 million. Now, taking collectively between the prepayments, the use of variable rate bonds, and refunding bonds at a lower interest rate, that would bring the aggregate savings to taxpayers since 2005, so the last 15 years, to just under $111 million. I know I went through that quickly. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Josh. The recommendation is for the Board of Trustees to approve the order as presented. Make a motion.
I'm so sorry. Do I need to do that again? So I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion for that recommendation? I wasn't on.
Oh. Got it. I second that. I make a motion that we accept Dr. Ryan's recommendation.
Thank you, Louie.
I second that.
Thank you, Doug. I've got to get used to that. Sorry. Now, do we have any questions for Josh? Other than what a savings.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to save our taxpayers money.
$111 million in the last 15 years.
Yeah. I just got to say, this is a testament to Dan Mooney's team and to Josh's team and them working together. I know a lot goes on behind the scenes, and you make these presentations, once a year, twice a year to us, and we come here and do this. There's a lot of work that goes on for our finance departments, and it shows with their awards and their accolades that we get, and us being a top-rated school district with Moody's and Standards & Poor's. So congratulations, Dan. This is awesome for your team. And Josh, thank you for advising us and guiding direct us. This is fantastic for our community. So nice job.
Very well said, Louis. Thank you so much. Yes, Jorge.
Just to make sure, you said that we paid $56 million for $43 million in savings. Is that what you? And then you said the 111 million is since 2005.
Right. If we add up all the savings through all your debt, variable rate,
that's savings in savings. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Josh? None. All those in favor? There we go. I'm just looking for Jesse and Mindy. Thank you. The motion carries 7-0. Josh, thank you for staying late for us tonight for such wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Josh.
We move on to item C, act on maximum class size exception. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, at the beginning of each school year, all districts in Texas are required to review the class size enrollment to determine whether the class sizes for kindergarten through fourth grade meet the requirements of the Texas Education Code. And if we do have classes in kindergarten through fourth grade that exceed the allowable class size limit of 22, then we must request an exception that's approved by the district board trustees. So this week we do have several classrooms that are listed there on page 588. Bransford Elementary, one first grade classroom with remote learners, one second grade classroom with remote learners, and a third grade classroom with remote learners. Cannon Elementary, one fourth grade classroom with in-person and remote learners. Colleyville Elementary, one second grade classroom with remote learners. Heritage Elementary, one third grade classroom with remote learners. Silver Lake Elementary, one fourth grade classroom with in-person and remote learners. And Timberline Elementary, a kindergarten classroom with in-person and remote learners, and a second grade classroom with remote learners. The recommendations for the board trustees to approve the request for maximum class size exception for a first, second, and third grade classroom at Bransford Elementary School, a fourth grade classroom at Cannon Elementary School, a second grade classroom at Colleyville Elementary School, a third grade classroom at Heritage Elementary School, and a fourth grade classroom at Silver Lake Elementary School, a kindergarten and second grade classroom at Timberline Elementary School.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Jesse. In a second. Oh, second. Oh, my. Becky?
Wow.
Whoa.
I was trying to go right. I felt the room shake there. Thank you, Becky. Do we have any questions? Jorge?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jesse. Jorge?
Yes. No, go ahead, Jorge. I'm sorry.
We always get the quantity that we're approving, but we didn't hear the reason for that.
The numbers.
I know, but we always, is it just one person over 22?
I believe it is, but in the remote learning, it might be a little bit different. Is Gemma joining us, Kyle, that she has the specifics on all of these? There she is. Hi, Gemma.
Hi there. The numbers were fluctuating a little bit, and that's why I didn't provide the numbers. I can send you guys an update. I'll send it to Dr. Ryan tomorrow of all the students, because I do have that information. In some cases, it is just one, and in some cases, it's a few more than one.
Jorge, do you have another question, Jorge, or are you done?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Gemma, Madam President, may I?
Yes, Jesse, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, Gemma, I was going to ask just a clarification. So the 1 to 22, that really was established for in-person. Are we saying now that if it happens to still go over the 22, regardless of whether it's remote or in person, that we still have to require, or we're required and we have to request a waiver?
We do. We clarified that with TEA. I actually called them.
Right.
And they do have some guidance on their website. So even if the class, like the first grade class at Bransford, which is at first, third and second grade, or first, second, and third grade at Bransford, they're remote classes. But TEA does advise us that we do have to require request a class size waiver and then send that to TEA for approval as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we've had to do that in the past, but I also, and I kind of laugh because I think of Becky here, but I know that in the past it's been one school or two schools, I think maybe three at the most, that we've at one time requested a waiver. But here, all of a sudden, we've got 2, 4, 6, almost 7 schools. And so are we going to start seeing a lot of this? You know, I mean, since we have to report this on a weekly basis, are we going to start seeing 7, 8 all of a sudden every time we turn around for waivers?
You know, with the parents right now are choosing their method for the second, starting on October 18th. And so we'll know what it looks like. I believe this Friday is the deadline for the next grading period. So we'll know pretty soon what it looks like. Some of these class size waivers that you're approving right now might not be necessary starting on October 18th, but we do have to request them now. And so we keep tabs on it, and as soon as I know something, I can let the board know. And I don't think there's a way for us to anticipate who is going to come back from home and who's at school going to go home.
Okay.
This doesn't take into account people who are quarantined. So we do have some students that do have to quarantine, and so these numbers wouldn't take that into account.
So necessarily these numbers that we're asking for waivers, are these, in every case, these additional students that are causing us to issue the waiver or request the waiver, these aren't an increase in the enrollment though, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's just a movement of how they're
Exactly.
placed in classes, and because they requested remote learning, and if we could space them out like we always have, we wouldn't be requesting but one waiver. But because we can't space them out the way that we always have in the past, because of the different types of learning that we have going on with students learning from home and selecting that option, it doesn't work out like it has in the past. So
okay, that's what I needed. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say, Gemma, this makes me a little uncomfortable passing or voting on this, not having a number. And I'm sorry, I should have caught that before. And I understand that we've got the blended and it's all blended and all the numbers are changing up. But to where I'm uncomfortable if I'm voting that we are putting 30 kids in one classroom. So I'd really like to have a number.
I can give you the number as of today. So we run the numbers every day for the elementary classes. So when I submitted this, I wasn't sure that would be the number as of today. So would you like me to provide that right now for you?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Okay. At Bransford, in second grade, we have 24 students. And I will say that these next two numbers are the largest two that you'll hear me say. In third grade, they have 25 students. They're all remote. And in first grade, they have 28 students, and they're all remote as well. At Cannon, in fourth grade, there are 24 students. At Heritage Elementary, in third grade, there are 23 students. Silver Lake, in fourth grade, there are 24 students. At Timberline, in kindergarten, there are 24 students. And in second grade, there are 26 students. And in that 26, they're all remote.
So, and I know on some of these campuses that the teachers have decided amongst themselves, you're teaching all remote and you're teaching all in person. So due to the fact that that teacher has chosen to do only remote, that is the reason our number is so high. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. So like I mentioned to Jesse, the example at Bransford Elementary, if we were to take those 28 students and space them out in all in-person classes, we could have classes that met the class size limit. But because when we were staffing at the beginning of the school year, we didn't know exactly who would be in person and who would be remote, that's the way that it worked out this first 9-week grading period. I do think that some of these first graders, and I've visited with the principal, some of these first graders are coming back the second 9-week grading period. So there won't be 28. Well, there won't be the same number. Some of the kids in person might decide to go remote, and we just don't know that yet.
I understand. Okay. We have Doug. You have
I just want to. Thank you for that question. You beat me to it, but Gemma, thanks for that explanation, because that helps a lot to really understand exactly what this is. And it sounds like there is that balance. It's just right now with everything in flux, it's hard to make sure it's the exactly right number of students in each class.
It's the hardest staffing we've ever completed, for sure.
Okay. Jorge?
I just have a question on support for the teacher, 28 kids. Are we doing anything? I mean, I went to school in Puerto Rico and we have 40 kids in the classroom. So it's a long time ago, but I just wanted to know, 28 kids for us is quite a bit. So anything that we're doing to help the teacher? I know it's remote, but still 28 kids. Is there anything that we're doing to help them?
When I checked on this situation, because, it's 28 kids in a first grade classroom, that does sound like a lot of kids. It is a lot of kids, and it's remote. From what I understand, and I know that Dr. Shiver is here too, and she can add in because she's actually visited with the principal a little more than I have, it seems to be working. And we have our instructional technology. We heard from Janie and Kyle earlier, and they are there to support. And so anything that a teacher needs, but this certain teacher is teaching remotely. I mean, she has selected to have all remote students, and she's teaching remote, and she seems to be handling it very well. But Kyle, I'll ask you if you could bring Sheila over to see if she has any additional information about some of these classrooms and support that we may be offering.
Good evening. Yes, I will address that one aspect of having more learners in the remote setting. Part of that is actually a little bit of an ease on our teaching staff when we are able to have a full classroom of remote learners and full classrooms of in-person learners. So while it does increase the number of students that they are having in whole class and then in small group, being able to focus on that one instructional model has also been beneficial as well and a way of support.
One thing I would like to add as well, when all of us in our respective positions, we're consulting with people in our same positions in other districts. In our other area districts around here, we have significantly less class size waivers than they do. They're up into the 100s. Now, I realize their districts are larger than ours, but when I talk to other people in other districts, I'm feeling pretty good about the numbers that we have and the amount of support and the amount of knowledge that we have about who's exactly doing what as far as who's teaching online only, who's teaching remote, and in-person learners. So I really think that as a team, the administration, between instructional leadership and HR, and the director of Dave, the director of human resources, and Erica with substitutes, we're really fine-tuning and really listening to what's going on in the classrooms.
Becky, you have a question?
Yeah, so we did hear from a number of principals including some of these campuses affected in my campus improvement plan group, and so obviously each one of us heard from all of these. Is there a cap involved with this waiver request, or is there a point at which, I mean, I know, I mean, the deadline's Friday, and most, if not every one of the principals that we heard from actually said they are anticipating getting more students back in person rather than the other direction. But is there a cap or a point at which they would say we are going to split this?
So I just want to make sure I understand the question. If we have more students that come back in person, that will help these numbers here. And so, Becky, can you clarify your question? I just want to make sure that I understand.
Okay, so it's kind of a two-part. First of all, is there as we go for this waiver, is the sky the limit then on the number of kids that we can have in this class? At the same time, I'm hopeful, based on what we heard from the principals this evening, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong based on what you said a little bit earlier, there's a possibility we might not even need these waivers because enough students in these particular grade levels at these particular campuses may well be coming back in person anyway. We just won't know that until after Friday, but we don't have another board meeting until late October. So the time doesn't work so well.
The way that TEA has it written, if a class does go over 22, I always have to bring that information to you. If a class goes over 22, my practice in the past, in which I've called TEA, it goes over 22, but then right before the board meeting, someone moves out and it goes back down to 22, I don't bring that information to you. So because we have the board meeting today, and we have these numbers over 22, I'm obligated to request this, and we're obligated to seek your approval. And if you approve, then we send it to TEA for their approval. They've approved everyone. And the important part of this is just letting the parents know that the class is over 22-1. And so that important piece of paper and getting that to them. Now, if the class is over 22 and we send them a letter, which we would do before the end of the week, and then at the second 9 weeks grading period, it goes below 22, we would let the parents know that, just to be transparent in the class size numbers. Now, these first grade parents probably know that there are 28 kids in that one classroom because a lot of those parents are, assisting their kids as they get online.
Right. There was the second part of my question was, is there a limit? I mean, can we, to Jorge's point, can we put 40 kids in a classroom? What exactly are we approving here as far as how many kids could actually end up in a class?
Right. No, we that would not be best practice to have 40 kids online, even in a classroom. So right now you would be approving the 28. You're not approving any more than that. And if we, for some crazy reason, went over 28, Sheila and I talk about staffing quite a bit. And so we would look at some things that we could do to maybe get additional staff members in there to assist. We would not think, and a lot would depend on the teacher and the principal and their input on how that is going at their campus. And right now, this one seems to be working out just fine. So I don't want to say just fine. This is not, all of this is very difficult, but this teacher is managing and these students seem to be doing okay.
Right. Thank you, Jim. Especially based on hearing from our principals earlier this evening. I mean, I trust them to be making the decisions on their campuses. So I wouldn't want to put in a dictate in place of, well, if you reach this point, you've got to split it because they know their campus and their students and their teaching staff the best. But I did want to make sure that this was not just a blank check to.
Oh, absolutely not. And, most of these numbers being at 23 or 24, that's what you guys normally approve. And last year, I believe we had 6 class size waivers total. And this year we do have more, but I anticipate it to look different the next 9 weeks. And so we'll keep you updated on what those look like in the upcoming weeks.
Doug?
Are we likely to see another set of waivers next time, if we have a bunch of kids transfer from online to in person? Will the balance shift where we got, I don't want to say too many, but too many in the in-person classes and not enough in the online classes?
Yeah, I can respond to this. As our open window for changing the instructional model ends this Friday, we will take the following week to really look at our numbers across all of our campuses within each grade level. So we're looking not only at how do we support the staff to meet the needs of our students within each campus and each grade level, but also across the district. So each time we're analyzing those numbers, if more students come in person, yes, that ultimately means we're going to have more students in each class in the in-person classes, but we're also monitoring the remote. Many of our campuses that at this time that do not have waivers are because the teachers are teaching a blended class where we have in-person and remote learners receiving instruction from the same teacher. So we are analyzing how we have our teams set up through each decision point to make sure that we are really arranging our staff and arranging our students in the way that will best meet the needs of our students and that our teachers are able to be successful in what they know how to do, which is provide that instruction. So it is possible. We can't say that there's no possibility because there's a lot of the control of the numbers that we just do not have in how they make the selections. But we will be looking and analyzing how we can really use our staff across the district, across campuses to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Dr. Shiver. Thank y'all for explaining this to us. We have no other questions. Mindy, there we go. I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you both again. Move on to item D, appropriate undesignated 2011 bond funds to widen existing flume, add curb inlets, new storm water system and spillway at the Cross Timbers Middle School to reduce the risk of storm water entering the gymnasium on the north. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, we've had two major flooding events at Cross Timbers Middle School in the gymnasium area. The last one was in June of 2019, and so we're really trying to remedy the situation that is there, and some of it we can, and some of it is just the way that it's designed there. So Gary is here and Carlo is here to be able to help talk the board through. We've talked about this particular item several times, and so now we're finally able to bring to the board a plan to try to get this thing fixed and remedied. And so, Gary, if you will step up and help us here. And Gary, is there a way to turn that on? There we go.
Forgot.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Good evening, Dr. Ryan, trustees. Good to be back with you. You did a good job of introducing this. So what I would like to do is bring Carlo on. Carlo is with our civil engineering firm, Pacheco Cook. He's a principal. You've seen him. You've probably talked to him before. We've asked him to become involved in this, and we've talked about it a little bit at length for the past 2 or 3 months. They've now come up with some thoughts and some ideas, and we thought we'd bring them here for the discussion in case there's a little bit more technical information that you have or questions. We're happy to answer those. So without further ado, Carlo, if you would. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, trustees, for having me here this evening. I think I can figure this out if I do this right, maybe. We have a presentation that we're going to try to look at here. There we go. What I'd like to do first is take you through the exercise that we went through in assessing the drainage conditions at Cross Timbers Middle School. Again, my name is Carlo Andriani. I'm a principal with Pacheco Koch Engineers. I'm based out of Fort Worth, and I've talked to y'all a number of times before. I'm also a 2001 graduate of Grapevine High School, so it's always a fun time for me to be here speaking with you all on matters of the district. So the history is, as Dr. Ryan mentioned, Cross Timbers has been flooded twice, in 2009 and 2019. Both times it's resulted in replacement of the gym floor. We were engaged to perform a drainage analysis of the site conditions where we did a topographic survey. We evaluated the existing conditions of the site, understanding how the stormwater flows whenever the rain events do occur, and then identifying any problem areas or conditions where we might identify that there's possible ways for that water to get into the gym. We then prepared a report, which is the bulk of where the text came from in your packet this evening, and where we outlined those problem areas. We identified the mitigation measures that we proposed, and then we developed an opinion of probable construction costs to help get to this point with the plan this evening. So this is a kind of behind the scenes snapshot of what we did. Like everyone, we've been working remotely for a number of months, and we had a collaborative team effort after we did the topographic survey to take a look at all the conditions out there. This is kind of a work map. This is kind of a behind the scenes diagram, just to kind of let you know the way we approach this. Different colors or different people, throwing out different ideas and taking a look at different conditions after we collect the facts of what the topographic survey looks like. So in a little more clean version than what we do is we analyze where the stormwater flows. And you can see my cursor here. This little drainage area is where we're talking about. In the report, we refer to this as drainage area 3. In some of the next exhibits, you'll be able to see exactly what the topography looks like in this area, and I'll elaborate on what's contributing to that. But we really had to understand what's going on around the entire campus, what's going on the south side of the gym, the mechanical yard, what's going on with the drive, how that relates to the creek that goes in between Cross Timbers and Grapevine High School, et cetera, et cetera. So this is our big picture view of how the stormwater is flowing through the site. So then what we did is we dove into the specific area. And for the purpose of this, I elaborated on 2 specific areas that we're going to address in the next exhibit. At the northeast corner of the parking lot, there's this kind of odd inlet weir structure that exists. It's not a weir, I'm sorry. It's an odd inlet structure with flume that is narrow at the parking spaces and then flares open at the backside. We thought that was a little unique, so we dove into the calculations on that and understood how that's working a little bit better. There's also 3 doors that all look similar to this one on the north face of the building. We have one door here, and then one further to the east. And those are all 3 doors that enter the gym area. You can see these contour lines that go down through here. You have a steep slope that comes down grade in the parking lot, and then right around the time you get to the first door, it shallows up. And that's a very important point that we're going to hit on here in just a moment, okay? And then it remains a very shallow grade through here until it's the stormwater is intended to turn the corner, come around and enter this small 12-inch inlet with a 12-inch drain pipe that then goes further south into the creek, okay? That's intended to carry all the flow from that area that's coming down here. Now there's a calculation that we do in our profession when we design roadways and things like that called gutter flow. Gutter flow is an analysis of the quantity of stormwater that's flowing down the curb line of a road or a parking lot or any sort of curb line, and you can actually calculate the depth and the spread of that stormwater based off of the theoretical calculations of what's falling during certain storm events. So I'll relate it to this way. If you have a steeper road and you have the same amount of water, you're going to have a narrower gutter flow. If you have a shallow road with the same amount of water, that water is going to spread out because it's not moving as fast, right? The velocity is not as fast in that water. So what's happening, one thing that we believe is happening is as that stormwater comes down this steeper slope,
and it shallows up right at that point where there's that curb ramp and that door. We believe that gutter flow, the spread of it is increasing, and it just turns out that door is only 4 inches above that gutter line. And so it's not even a full curb height, which is typically 6 inches. And then you typically have a grade difference from the top of curb. So you typically have about 7.5 inches from a gutter line to a building. We're at 4 inches in an area where we're anticipating that the water is spreading out in a big storm event. Now, this isn't happening all the time, right? It's happened in 2009. It's happened in 2019. It's happened a couple of times. So it's always what you might refer to as the goalie washers, right? It's the ones where the water is just rushing through here, but those are always the ones that cause you the big issues. So we'll get into a mitigation measure for that. We talked about this area up here in this other picture where we have the narrow inlet, and we've talked about this shallow storm drain here. One other item that's critical to understand is we always look at what's called positive overflow. Positive overflow is if everything's clogged, all your drains are clogged, what happens to that stormwater? It's like if you fill up the bathtub or the sink, you have those little holes in the front of your sink. That's intended to catch that overflow before it floods your house, right? Well, we look at the same thing. We always try to identify where's that water going to go if there's nowhere else for it to go underground. Well, your positive overflow point happens to be above your finished floor elevation of the gym. So if everything's clogged, you just keep filling up and your bathtub keeps filling up and you end up replacing the gym floor, okay? So those are some of the key points that we've identified when analyzing the system. So what are the proposed site improvements that we want to discuss with you guys? One of them is to install some intermediate drains in here. Again, we have methods of calculating all sorts of different flows and sizing inlets and understanding what that water is going to do and how much capacity will go through a pipe and into an inlet, et cetera, et cetera. So currently, anything that's out there, that small 12 or 24-inch drain I mentioned, that's sized for, I believe, a 5-year storm. That curb cut we looked at that's about 2 or 3 feet wide, that's sized for the 2-year storm. These are all storm events that have a 30 to 50% chance of occurring on any given day when it's raining. So what we're doing is we want to design everything for the 100. We want to design it for a storm event where there's a 1% chance that storm event is going to happen during any given storm event. Okay, that's the definition of a 1% of a 100-year storm. It's a 1% exceedance factor. So identifying those 3 key areas here, if we intercept that flow before it gets to those ramps and put in inlets to collect that at a 100-year rate, well, then there won't be enough water to spread when it gets to the door. We'll then carry that down, put some other intermediate inlets in. We're actually proposing to get rid of that smaller inlet that we talked about, that was undersized, and put in a curb inlet there as well, and carry that all into a new pipe into the creek. There are some details. This is not a construction drawing. This is an exhibit to convey what we intend to put into a construction drawing. There's some details to be worked out with the city as to what elevation we come into the creek at, and we have some theories that we'll discuss with the city of Grapevine on that. Another item we propose to do is take that inlet cut, that V cut up here, and widen that up to be full width with the inlet. This will exceed a 100-year calculation if we widen that up. There is one thing I failed to mention. In the middle of the parking lot, there's a grade break. There's a high point. So what happens is these end up overflowing into each other, and so we end up giving this 2 points to balance itself out between the pipe system and then also widening that flume over there. As a third measure, we talked about the positive overflow. This gray area is proposed pavement replacement or removal at new grades, so where we'll actually lower the elevation of the pavement to provide that positive overflow below the finished floor elevation of the building, so that positive overflow, that stormwater drainage, when that bathtub fills up, has a place to go instead of ruining the nice maple in the gym. Okay. With that, we have different things shown here. We have riprap, which is erosion protection to make sure the creek doesn't get eroded away. A bollard to make sure that it's not perceived as a driveway or a parking space. Different things like that. And removal and replacement of certain speed bumps and things like that, because we all know the Grapevine High School kids like to cut through here whenever they can. So I know I did. With that, that's the proposed solution. of what we're talking about. In your packet are budget numbers and things like that associated with it as well. Be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Carlo. The recommendation is for the Board of Trustees to appropriate undesignated 2011 bond funds in the amount of $211,589 to widen an existing flume, add curb inlets, new stormwater system, and spillway across Timbers Middle School to reduce the risk of water entering the gymnasium on the north, and declare the construction manager at risk construction delivery method the best value for this project.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Do I have a motion for the recommendation?
I'll make a motion that we accept Dr. Ryan's recommendation.
Thank you, Louis. And I have a second. Jesse?
I second.
Thank you, Jesse.
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. Any questions? Becky?
Yeah, so Paula, this is probably a better question for you, although I have to tell you, I used to work for the Corps of Engineers, so I absolutely loved that presentation. So, and kudos to you guys for figuring out what was exactly going on there. Because when you first threw that up, I thought what you were going to say is that we're catching all the water, and this may still be part of the problem too, is because of the elevations there, that area is collecting all the drainage coming off, or a significant part of the drainage coming off of the that softball field, the track, and that open field there. It's all just, because originally as we were looking at it, we're thinking, oh, the creek's overflowing and backing it all up, and
Right.
turns out that's not where the water's coming from. It's actually coming from uphill,
Right.
so to speak, from the creek. So I'm really glad we got that figured out. So, but Paula, we didn't have a crystal ball in 2016 to say, oh my gosh, the creek over there is going to flood and tear up the gym again. So can you talk a little bit about how we're able to use, and maybe this is a better question for Diane, how we're able to use the 2011 bond funds to go ahead and fix this? You know, I know this is an expensive project probably to do, but I know from my experience on the Budget and Finance Committee with TASB right now, that's the committee that I'm serving on, there's a significant amount of talk about insurance. And my concern would be if we don't fix this now, our insurers would have reason to say, well, you knew what the problem was, you didn't fix it, so the next gym floor is on your dime.
Those are excellent points, and two things I want to cover with that. In fact, we had TASB when the first flood happened at that particular gym, and of course in 2019, they've had to pay that claim twice, so they're very familiar with where the northern gym is at that particular campus. And they certainly indicated to us that we needed to look at some sort of mitigation effort, and now that it had happened for a second time. One time is kind of a fluke, and then we all know kind of the increase in storms that we've experienced over the course of the last decade. So knowing that there's two claims, we knew that we had to do that. You've certainly already seen and approved the increases to insurance costs, which everybody's experiencing, whether it be commercial or homeowners or what have you. In addition to that, I'll just point out this. The last time that we had to replace this gym floor in this last year, the cost was about $178,000. We have a $100,000 deductible. The proposed cost that we have for construction is about $188,000. The rest of it is soft costs for some of the things you have to do, like design and create your construction plans and all of those kinds of things. So all total cost is the $211 that you see there. So really, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and put in these mitigation efforts and corrections to make sure that we have the best chance to not flood that gym at Cross Timbers for a second time. Now, to answer your question about bond monies that we have from the 2011 bond, as you know, bonds earn interest in addition to projects potentially having come in under the budget. Unlike the 2016 bond, the 2011 bond, we were very fortunate that many of our projects were really under budget. We did not necessarily expand scope, although we did expand some scope, but mostly we had projects that weren't in the budget. For a school district like ours that pays recapture, it is very important to hang on to these dollars. One, because 100% of them stay with the community. They're not recapture dollars. That's one point. Second of all, these are the types of things that the operating budget certainly could not handle at this point. You would have to take something out of the classroom to be able to make this kind of correction to prevent the gym from flooding. That's just take one and move it over to the other situation. So the community benefits from the fact that we were under budget in some of those projects. We're able to hold on to that money. We use it for primarily capital investments to correct things like this. We corrected Glen Hope just recently from a construction defect that had been there some 20 some odd years, as you know. You talk about technology and the need that this pandemic drove. The fiber optic project partnership with the city of Grapevine, came out of the 2011 bond surplus. That's how that was funded. So there are a lot of capital improvement projects that could not fit into an operating budget that we use those monies for and have strategically as a Robin Hood district over the course of the last 15 years or so. And of course, Diane is our Chief Financial Officer. She may have more she wants to add to that if I missed anything.
You did a great job explaining that, Paul. One thing I did want to mention is that if we were to have to take on these costs in the general operating fund, that would cut in, like Paula said, into the classroom. It would also cut into being able to add staff increases, compensation increases each year, because pretty much any kind of increase we get in the general fund from state funding typically goes towards compensation adjustments or increases. And so if we had to take on a lot of these capital items in the general operating, it would certainly cut into those funds that would be available for that.
All right. Thank you, Diane and Paula. I appreciate that.
Do we have any other, Doug?
I do. I've got a couple questions here. Carlo, sorry. Now I'm all confused again. Didn't expect that. So the creek flooding has no impact. It's had no impact on those gym floors.
So you can't say it has no impact because it is a factor. It's right there. It's a large creek that conveys a lot of water. I will say the floor elevation, the elevation of the gym is a 578.16 above sea level, so 578.16. The 100-year water surface in the creek is a 576. So we only have about 2 feet and an inch and a half, right, of buffer between the 100-year water surface elevation of the creek and the gym. The way we believe it really affects it is that the storm systems that are there, whenever you have a storm line underground going into the creek and you have water coming down the creek, that water surface and the water surface elevation of the creek rises, and that water also backs up that pipe, which prohibits water from getting into that pipe, right? So that larger system that goes up the drive between the softball field and the gym, with that big inlet we were looking at, with that narrow cut that we're proposing to widen, that system really doesn't convey much water through there. So that's why that area where we're proposing to remove that concrete becomes even more important. To provide that positive overflow at that elevation above the 100-year water surface elevation. Now, I don't have the 500-year water surface elevation handy, but it may be that you get a 500-year water event through there and everything's flooded. So we are by no means guaranteeing that the gym will never flood if the right storm events come on. But what we're doing is we're proposing mitigation measures to reduce the chance of flooding based on our evaluation.
Okay, and you think based on the evaluation, that those drainage channels are going to have creek to drain into. The water level at the creek is going to be low enough that they can drain into there and not just back up, and then we got the same problem. Similar problem.
Well, the storm systems may back up, and that's I hit on the details that we need to work through with the city of Grapevine. Mm-hmm. We would actually propose to discharge the pipe higher than the 100-year water surface elevation, whereas the standards in Grapevine have you discharge it at the bottom of the creek. And so that's one item we'd like to work through to provide that steady flow through that straw, if you will, to be able to go into the creek. Okay. But that's why we want to lower that elevation of that paving. So you're not relying 100% on the underground storm drain system like you are today. Because right now you're relying on a 12-inch pipe and it's a 36 or I forget the size of the pipe that's going in between the softball fields. But regardless, you're relying on those 2 pipes to get all that water out. So we want to add another pipe plus lower that elevation to, again, just reduce that risk.
And that helps solve the problem if those are pipes or those drainage areas are just clogged for some reason.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And can you give this presentation to a physics class?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
But it was. Thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Do I have any other questions? No? Seeing none, thank you very much. Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item E, act on approval of House Bill 3 board plans and goals for the student outcomes in early childhood literacy, math, and college career military readiness. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, this is another outcome from House Bill 3, and we've been working, and our teams have been working with our campuses to be able to make plans for early childhood literacy and mathematics and college career and military readiness. And so I know Dr. Schnauts and his team have been working with this as well, so I'll turn it over to him, and he can introduce anybody else that might be presenting this evening.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ryan. Am I on, Kyle? Yeah, okay. Trustees, this is a culmination from discussions that we've had with you guys since last fall, along with ample feedback that we received from our principals, the CEC groups, around the early literacy and math goals, along with the CCMR goals that you've seen those targets now, you've seen the goals. Those were embedded in tonight's CIP review that we discussed. And so tonight we have Shannon Tovar, Jennifer Heileman, and Jackie Van Horn to present this information. So I will turn it over to Shannon Tovar at this time.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Schnauts, Dr. Ryan. I have Jackie and Jennifer here with me. I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see our presentation. There we go. Is it working now for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So as Dr. Schnauts said earlier this evening, as you were looking at the campus improvement plans, as well as through the past several weeks, we've been writing to you about the House Bill 3 board plans and goals in regards to early childhood and college and career military readiness. So ultimately, this evening's presentation is just a brief summary of all of the great work that's been going on in order for you to be able to approve those plans that are within the district and campus improvement plans. Some of the requirements that the House Bill 3 has for us to do speak directly to the idea of early childhood math, early childhood literacy, and as well as college career military readiness. And the truth is if you ask any elementary principal or teacher, is it essential for students to be, very important for students to be on grade level in their math and literacy skills at third grade, they could probably point to a lot of research and data, anecdotal and otherwise, to show that this is a very important measure and that the work really starts way back in elementary, early childhood with pre-K and kinder 1, 2, as well as in third grade. The same thing as if you were to ask a high school person or a secondary person, when you shake hands at graduation, do you want to know that every student coming across that stage has a viable plan or several great options in terms of their post-secondary life? And the answer is, of course we do. Of course we do. All the TEA is asking us to do is to be very intentional about what those plans look like and how we're going to progress monitor to make sure that when we talk about all of the students, we want them all to meet those targets, want them all to have a viable plan, that we can speak to what we're doing intentionally to get there, and then include those in our campus and district improvement plans.
So sometimes there's lots of add more, and nothing really comes off the plate. So I think it's real important for us to kind of pause for a moment and show how in this particular instance that the work that TEA is asking of us is work that's already something that we are engaged in. And so when we think about goal 1, where we're going to actively identify and remove barriers that limit access to opportunity for access to and opportunity for learning, that's really what TEA is asking us to do in regards to some very specific items. Because when we talk about the early childhood math and literacy as well as the CCMR goals, TEA has asked us to look at those across the demographic groups that we would see in the closing the gaps domain of our accountability, so in that domain 3, which is something we've already been doing in regards to CCMR, for example, when we look at our AP or SAT or ACT or graduation or college persistence rate information across the demographic groups. So we're already engaged in that sort of work, and we have an awareness that we have these barriers that we need to identify and to reduce to the best of our ability. So it's already part of our goal 1. It's already part of that vision we've cast forward for ourselves, and now we're working towards those strategic steps that will translate that vision into action. And this will still relate to our community-based accountability work, because from within goal 1, as we start to talk about what exactly are the benefits of attending school in our district, what benefit do our stakeholders receive, those are fleshed out more in the key questions. And so here what we see are the 2 key questions that as we work through our A team last year and the work we're planning on engaging in moving forward was really to what degree do we identify and remove those barriers? And to what degree do we actively promote and support equitable student learning for all? And that's going to go right along with those House Bill 3 board plans. Now, in our campus improvement plans and our district improvement plans, we have 4 goals because our work is identified by LEAD 2.0. We have then underneath that, the key questions kind of fleshed it out within that community-based model. And so even though the language in our campus and district improvement plans would maybe refer to a House Bill 3 goal as performance objective and that language within our structure that we used for our plans, we do have them identified as HB3 goal requirements, so that if anyone were to ever ask for that documentation, they could see where it is. So then the last little part of it, of the House Bill 3 board plans and goals portion that aligns back to and is tightly coupled with goal 1 and our key questions, is just simply translating that vision to action, where we are talking about increased opportunities, what strategies are we going to use, how are we going to support our staff, what do we need to do to help make sure that these students can achieve these goals that are set out 5 years into the future, as well as how are we going to progress monitor, what tools are we going to use, and how frequently are we going to report those things out to you, the board, as well as the community. And so now Jackie Van Horn, our Director of Humanities, is going to talk to us about early childhood literacy.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to provide a brief overview of how the process in which we came up with these annual or these yearly targets when it comes to both reading and math, same process. And just a brief overview of some of the strategies that we will continue to do and kind of layer in as we go over the next 5 years. So just kind of pointing out, what Shannon was saying, this is tied to that goal 1, whether it's a bias because, reading that's my thing, but the inability to read is kind of the ultimate barrier. And so whichever the content, we need to make sure our students are ready and prepared. So this is a great opportunity that we started back in April of this year, working collaboratively with multiple departments in the district and our principals to come up with these annual targets. What you'll notice is we're starting at 61% in 2020. That 61%, again, is about students reading or above grade level on the STAR. And so the state has required that by 2024, 60% of our students are at meets grade level or above. So just of note that we are starting actually in 2020 above the state recommendation for 2024. But again, whereas in the past we looked at approaching, we're now really looking at that meets category. So starting with that 61%, we're just going to slowly etch our way up to that 79% over the next 5 years. And just wanted to give you a few ideas, if you wouldn't mind, Shannon, moving to the next slide. Some of the things, the strategies that we have done, a lot of it has been trying to be proactive in those really early literacy years and pre-K2. As I kind of presented in May about those reading academies, a lot of professional learning around foundational reading skills, and we've invested a good couple of years already in the district. So we believe that our teachers, K3 and the administrators, are really poised to do well in this 11-month intensive reading, foundational reading skill professional development. There's some other things we did as a district, really doing job-embedded professional learning, where we're in the classroom, we're working with students, and it's not kind of that remote, we're outside of the classroom learning things in theory. We have taken our professional learning into the classroom, and now we're just kind of trying to consider how do we do that in this new environment. We're determined to try and keep that kind of professional learning going on. Another focus is that implementation of that explicit foundation, the foundations program that we adopted 2 years ago. We had tremendous success last year, really focusing on that phonics program, and some great feedback from teachers that they are seeing and data to support that we're seeing tremendous gains in our reading data in those K2 grades as a result of that focused, intentional professional learning with that program. So I've kind of let you read the rest of the slide, but other than the professional learning and on those foundational skills, our focus is making sure we have great hiring, strategic hiring processes. Again, another collaborative venture with our principals and other departments of the district to come up with some really quality interviewing questions to make sure, do we have the right people in the right assignments, that they have that professional learning they need to teach those foundational reading skills. The last thing that we are going to ensure, kind of like Shannon was mentioning, we need frequent check-ins. We don't want to wait till that annual, yearly check-in to see if we met that benchmark. We have developed timelines so that we can check in and have enough time to monitor and adjust should the data, as we constantly review it, should it not be trending in the direction we need, we have time to reevaluate and adjust accordingly. So with that being said, that's in the reading lens, and I will turn it over to Jennifer Heilman to get in the math side.
Thank you. As we went through the same process that Jackie described for reading, it was all grounded in HB3's response to Texas's 60 by 30 plan, that 60% of adults would have some sort of college certificate or degree by a certain number of years after high school. And HB3 backed that up to say at least 60% of our students by the year 2030 should have mastery of reading and math on STAR. And that mastery is at the needs level, not the approaches level that a lot of our accountability is around, but needs is an even higher standard. And so as you look at the baseline from the 2019 data for STAR for math, we start out at 64%, again, above where the state even wants us to be in 10 years from now, and look at where we plan to go by 2024. And all of this is based on not only the work that we did across departments in the district, but looking at the campus's own goals as well. And I'm really pleased to work in a district that has such overlap between what state accountability would be and what our own community-based accountability is. That this is not something that's just a lick and a promise. It is real, tangible goals that we're looking to meet, and they are push goals that are going to cause us to have to change some of our behaviors in order to meet those goals. So some of the ways in which we're changing is that targeted use of progress monitoring data. In pre-K through third grade math, we have progress monitoring tools, mostly Ames Web Plus for math. In pre-K, there is Circle PM that they use for both math and reading. That progress monitoring gives us data, and so we're going to tie our instructional coaching support to the data from that progress monitoring and use that to establish and maintain instructional practices that will improve not only in intervention in the classroom, but also Tier 1 instruction. And have professional learning to support those instructional practices. As Jackie mentioned, that's difficult in this environment, but it's not insurmountable. So an example of this would be something that we put into place during the last school year using this progress monitoring, coaching support, establishing and maintaining instructional practices cycle, is looking at the data that came from some of our progress monitoring and seeing where we had identified a deficit in particular grade levels or particular campuses in students' ability to compare size of numbers, and looked at what instructional practices could we put in place to be able to shore up student learning around that. And we did training in PLCs for grade levels to put some routines in place in primary and intermediate level classrooms at some particular campuses that showed us gains even by mid-year, and probably would have shown us continued gains if we had been able to take data at the end of last year. So anticipating that keeping that cycle in place is going to be one of the factors that causes us to be able to meet our push goals. Also, as Jackie mentioned, not letting the data wait until the end of the school year to continue to use our analysis tools to monitor our growth. Now, if we come to the point where we find campuses are not meeting their goals, then we will have some more focused support and some training that would involve potentially bringing some folks from outside of the district with the Mathematics Achievement Academies. These have been around for a little while and don't have the same attendance requirements as the reading academies that Jackie alluded to. So that's one of the reasons why it would be during a year that would not be when teachers are involved in the Reading Academy, so that we don't overload teachers with an unreasonable number of professional development hours. I'm going to turn it back over to Shannon to lead us through college, career, and military readiness goals.
Thank you, Jennifer. So at this point, when we talk about the college, career, and military readiness goals, we're going to focus our attention towards what it means in terms of how it's measured for accountability as far as a yearly target goal. And so when we look at where we are with our high schools, this has been a relative strength of the high schools for the past couple of years. And so this past round when we had accountability ratings, the CCMR for those groups of students was about 82, and our goal is to push to 95% by August of 2024 for all of our demographic groups, while also meeting the annual targets for each individual group along the way. Now you might say, why 95? Why not 100? And so that is one of the things we started having conversations at the campus level back around January. Of course, now we have different principals at the helm of 3 of those schools now, but we started having those conversations. Like, for example, if you look at iUniversity Prep, including some of the students we saw earlier today in the videos, some of these students already have a career, and they may or may not hit one of those accountability CCMR indicators, but that doesn't mean they're not ready for life and beyond. It's just that we wouldn't want to get to a situation where we said 100%, then we don't make 100%, and then the school feels like they didn't hit their goal and didn't achieve. But maybe structurally, there's just things about that campus where we're not going to be able to necessarily capture students that we know through our own accounting processes, through our own GCISD graduate tracker, that we know that they do have a plan for after high school. It just may not include some of those CCMR things. And so that's why you see a 95 there maybe as opposed to a 100 itself. Some of the things that we're are going to continue to do, some of the things that were already in place, such as continuing on with the PSAT. You know, we were going to do the PSAT 8 again for our 8th graders, and we checked that all the way through to their seniors now because we're able to do the SAT school day, and that's reimbursed through House Bill 3. I've written to you before as a board about, like, for example, last fall when we were able to do the SAT at school for the first time for the class of 2020, of those seniors who did sign up, almost half of them had never taken the SAT previously, and so to be able to take down that barrier of not having to find a Saturday, not having to pay for it, not having to take off from work on a Saturday or find someone to babysit my siblings or whatever the barrier may have been, we were able to capture those students and have them test at school on a day when they were already planning to be with us. So what we're having to do right now, as you know, with COVID is we're also having to identify and remove any new barriers that are created by the requirements related to testing, and also try to overcome the realities that the SAT, in terms of how frequently it can be offered outside of school, that is very fluid right now. So, like, for example, last week, we hear that the University of Oklahoma is going to go score optional for 5 years, the next 5 years. And then people say, well, what about for scholarships? Well, they're working through that to see if there's a way that they could do scholarships score optional as well. But then this morning, I get an email. It's more from admissions with the University of Alabama, and they're saying, well, we will, if you don't have a score because you couldn't get your SAT done yet, go ahead and apply. We'll give you conditional acceptance, but then by May 1, you'll need to send us a qualifying score. So there's lots of difference around the nation, around colleges, about how this is going to look in the face of COVID. So a lot of the markers that we've traditionally used to measure college, career, military ready, either as a district, as a state for accountability, or maybe even for our universities, it's going to be kind of an interesting time period where the availability of things that we would historically use aren't available. So, like, for example, also I was speaking with Mr. Bracey last week, and I was asking him about, in particular, our industry-based certifications. Some of those tests were able to be taken before the end of the year, but a good many also had to be postponed because they couldn't be done while we were remote. And so some of those things that are tied to the higher standard that we talked about as far as the college, career, military ready outcomes, which are really the crux of these goals that TEA wanted us to build. So, like, for example, not only do I meet the TSI indicator, college ready indicator on the SAT, ACT, or TSI, but I also graduate high school with an associate's, or I also enroll in college that coming fall. Some of those things are going to be kind of challenging. And so that maybe that is another reason to not say 100% for sure, because like we have the 3 new high school principals, we also have a new executive director, but they're also entering in a time where they're dealing with high school that's brand new in a new kind of way, but then also, too, where it's highly possible that our traditional not thinking about how we can measure college, career, military ready could evolve in the coming years. So I do present these, we present these goals to you as well and embed them in the district and campus improvement plans, but through some progress monitoring and through annual updates to the board, if those were to have to be based on new information or how these things changes, that those would be things we would bring to the board and that the principals or our executive director would be able to talk to you about what is happening out there in terms of college, career, military ready, in terms of getting kids into their post-secondary lives, and how that relates to our goals in terms of being able to meet, exceed, or hit them maybe at a later time. We also have something new from TEA. They call it the TEA CCMR tracker. And so what I've been able to do is share with our counseling and our CTE people and our GO centers by grade level for all the high schools from TEA where the students were at last fall, so students who were in our snapshot last fall, if they have a CCMR marker or not. And so they're going to be able to look at the trends and track the students in a new way to help them in terms of programming and planning and being able to say what might be appropriate to as an intervention for one grade level might look different for a particular grade level, but at least those decisions will be able to be intentional and based around data. I think we're going to have Jennifer at this point come back on. Jennifer, did you want to talk about how the progress monitoring calendar works in terms of the literacy and the mathematics?
Sure. So we have not only our Ames Web monitor, this is just an example, there'll also be the Circle PM from pre-K that is available for early childhood reading and early childhood math 3 times per year. And so we would have a progress monitoring calendar that would have us checking in at least once per quarter. Then with our summative check-in being what is tied to the board goals that you're voting to approve tonight that are specific to STAR for grade 3. But the Ames Web is for kinder, first, second, and third. There are specific ones tied there, as well as the TPRI and Tejas Ley for our Spanish-speaking populations in reading. For math, the Ames Web is available in both English and Spanish, and that data is looked at together at each of those checkpoints.
Thank you, Jennifer. So the CCMR portion that goes along with that, you're seeing right across the bottom of the screen there, things that we already are fairly accustomed to reporting out on. These are kind of when these different events occur. And so those previous style of reports, that information will continue, but we would keep it in terms of being aligned to our CCMR board goals, and then also how that relates to our key questions in terms of eliminating, identifying, and reducing those barriers and supporting students towards the goal. So what the idea is, as Jackie and Jennifer both mentioned, the idea is that through monitoring them more frequently, we're able to do something that I think in some of our conversations with John Tanner, as we've talked about community-based accountability, he's talked about this idea of signaling and being able to signal out the level of progress that's been made or why we have not been able to make as much progress as we've hoped. Maybe it's a capacity building issue. Maybe it's because College Board hasn't found a way to give the SAT online yet that they're comfortable with, but we're not able to capture all of our seniors at the building on school day. So there will be different things, but the idea would be that around those key questions based on these data points, that we'd be able to in some way signal that progress to the board and to our community, because what we want them to know is these are the benefits that when you're talking about the House Bill 3 goals, of course, 2 of them are related to STAR and one's related to CCMR, but those are some of the benefits of being in our schools, and we want to be able, that's what we're accountable to our community for, and we want to be able to show what kind of progress we're making towards achieving that benefit for all students. So if you've ever looked at how our campus and district improvement plans are built within Plan for Learning, here's kind of what I was mentioning earlier, where within Goal 1, which speaks to removing barriers, identifying and removing barriers, the House Bill goal is embedded as a performance objective. So it's kind of it's a naming thing, but it's still the same goal because it's still the same number, the percentage that we want to meet within the 5 years with the different targets along the way. But you can see how for our community and for our teachers and our students and our principals and everyone, how they can see that this is still aligned to the core nature of our work, that we want to make sure that all of our student groups are doing well, and that there's a barrier for one or more groups, that we identify what it is and that it is addressed. So here we have Performance Objective 7 for the District Improvement Plan under our Goal 1, and you can see underneath there it says Strategy 1. This is where we will be using that CCMR tracker from TEA to monitor each graduating class by demographic group and seeking out what is the root cause of the problem so that we can align the appropriate strategy to address it. So obviously down here at the bottom where it says November, we've made some progress, January, more progress, March, substantial progress. That's where I just want to show you how it works. I'm going to take it, I already took it back out, but I didn't want to leave it blank. But this is where that idea of progress monitoring would come through. So if this was the campus's plan, then the campus in their CEC, Campus Excellence Committee meetings in November, January, and March, or quarterly, however they do it, where they could actually talk about, well, here's the amount of progress we have made with their CEC, or if this is the District Excellence Committee for the District Improvement Plan, and then be able to talk about the evidence that they've agreed on that shows the progress toward of that strategy. So there's an idea that we can start signaling within the structure we have right now, hey, what is our progress? How do we know we're making progress? And then also too, if we haven't quite made enough progress, why? What's the problem? What's the barrier? Is it funding? Is it capacity? Is it timing? Is it things outside of our control, like the College Board isn't offering the SAT or whatever thing that it might be? And then at the end of the year, there's a place for that summative evaluation, because House Bill 3 requires us to give that annual report back to the board, where we'd have that summative evaluation where they would be able to speak to, as a principal or the person in charge of the school for the district improvement plan, what sort of progress did we make over the course of the year? Here's the progress we made, and here's how I know that we made that particular progress as a signal to you annually. So like I said, this is just an example of what it would look like at the end of the year with each of those formative checkpoints filled in, as well as that summative towards the end of the year. So that concludes our overview, or kind of our summary of how the House Bill 3, what the goals are, the plans, and then how we would progress monitor that through a progress monitoring calendar. We thank you for being here serving the students, and we'll be open to any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you, Shannon and Jackie and Jennifer. The recommendations for the Board of Trustees to approve the House Bill 3 board plans and goals for the student outcomes in early childhood literacy, early childhood math, college and career readiness, as included in the GCISD district and campus improvement plans.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Do I have a motion for the recommendation?
I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Doug. And a second?
I second.
Mindy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mindy. And at this time, do we have any questions? Becky.
Yeah, I had two quick questions. Have we heard anything out of TEA on the possibility of changing or adding things to meet the CCMR, since there is so much uncertainty with a lot of the benchmarks that are out there right now, although Mike does like to say, you know, there's a huge list out there anyway. And then I guess this is not really a question so much as just an observation for the community, is that people understand that these goals being tied to STAR scores, that's actually part of House Bill 3. It very specifically says this has to be tied to the third grade STAR scores. That's not our choice.
You're correct.
Any rumors out of TEA as far as that CCMR piece with all the uncertainty on a number of the options there?
I know that ATAC and the APAC, the two committees that work as far as like what would the policy be and what would be the technical behind the scenes, how would that work, are continuing obviously to meet. It's not uncommon for us to not really know what the final rules are going to be until the end of the school year. We're more around April or May when the actual accountability markers are released in terms of an accountability manual. We're very accustomed to that. I have not personally heard anything specifically about them trying to change what those CCMR markers are. We are obviously heading into, I guess, a legislative year, I suppose, and so many of those things are actually put in such a way that I think it would take someone more than just possibly. They'd have to take those recommendations from those committees forward so that it could be changed formally. If for some reason we felt that, that that we're not going to be able to collect enough students taking the SAT, for example. If the SAT, we're be able to do them at school right now on our school days. House Bill 3 is able to reimburse us if it's a junior's spring semester or a senior, during the year. Last year, thankfully, we were able to capture over 900 of our juniors, so our current senior class. We were able to capture a test score for them right there before spring break. And so we're in excellent shape, along with the fact that the CCMR data for accountability is a lagging indicator. And so the absence of data maybe for 2020 won't really be a concern for accountability 21 because accountability tends to lag a little bit behind. I mean, the CCMR lags behind because they have to graduate and then go back around and collect all that data.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. I guess one bright spot here is our ability to offer that SAT on campus and allow our kids to take it. So thank you.
Do we have any other questions? And I cannot see Jesse. So, Jesse, if you have a question, just unmute if you would, please.
Yes, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, and Shannon, I understand in terms of your portion of the presentation on career and college career military readiness, and I understand the yearly targets. And you were looking at, and you spent quite a few moments talking about the 95% by the year 2024, and as to why you wouldn't possibly raise that closer to 100. And I kind of understood your rationale. However, personally, I'd like to see us shoot for a little higher percentage there than the 95, especially when you consider all of these strategies that you listed underneath that chart in terms of what we're doing over not only this school year, but going forward. I guess my question, though, is more so with the pre-K to 2 for early childhood, both in math and reading. And when I'm looking at the reading, the yearly target goals, to me, and this is just my opinion, and I could be way off, just seems that the increments of growth are small. And especially when you consider that if you look at your strategies and best practices, you've got the reading academies, you've got job-edited professional learning cycles, you've got the focused campus support, and then listening to the principals and their plans, campus improvement plans, I'm just a little surprised that these numbers and these percentages wouldn't be higher. So, for example, in literacy, for the year, we started at 61%, but we only expect to go up to 79% in 5 years. And then the same thing with math, even though it's a little higher. I guess I just would need someone to help me understand that a little better. So why those increments are, in my opinion, are small, and they're just not as maybe this is not the right term to use, aggressive, as I think. I'd rather have us have higher, heftier goals and strive for those, and then continue to shoot higher. Whereas these, at least in looking at them, they just don't seem to do that for me. Am I missing something?
So I would point towards these being tied, as Becky St. John pointed out, by statute to STAR. And STAR progress is generally exceedingly incremental, much more incremental than the 3 to 5% per year you're seeing in the early childhood literacy and math goals. We usually see growth maybe a percentage point or 2 per year in these categories.
Yeah, but I understand that, and I understand the focus on STAR, and that's not what we as a district do. I get all that, but I just, like I said, I'm looking at these numbers, and given everything that we're doing, and for example, the cohort group in 2020, let's say that's your pre-K, Well, that means that by the year 2024, those pre-K students will have been, what, in third grade now? Okay, first, second, and third grade. So they will have been exposed to all of our wonderful features and best practices and strategies. And I guess that's the only reason. And again, like I said, I could be way off, but just in looking at this, the initial thing just seems to be not pushing as maybe as aggressively as I'd like to see it, but that's just me. My colleagues might not feel that way.
And I would love to add that the third grade STAR is the outcome of a lot of different processes a student is doing to be able to complete that task. And so it really is about the complexity of your understanding and be able to decode. And so to be able to do that, you have to kind of back up and have a student have so many very specialized skills that they have to be really automatic at. And a lot of the data that we've used to come up with these data points and these yearly targets, there is some foundational reading skills that we really have to invest a lot of time and intensity in building those with our students so that when they all come together, there will be an outcome in that performance on STAR. And so I think just knowing the kind of professional learning and the amount and intensity that the teachers in pre-K through 2 historically in our upper education in their colleges, they didn't receive this training. And so we've just seen this big gap in teachers being equipped to teach these skills, but we are now, as a district, trying to put all these solutions together. And so I think just knowing the focus and the amount of work we are going to be doing in the next few years, the outcome might not seem like it's aggressive, to use that term, but there's going to be a lot of things that those students are going to be learning, that those teachers are going to be learning, and we're going to be providing professional learning around to even hit those yearly targets that we have projected. But of course, we're always going to want to go above and beyond and try and exceed the projections with every year. So I don't know if that gives enough context to kind of the breakdown of those sub-skills that we're going to have to work on, but there's a lot of missing pieces that we're going to work on to get those results.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we've done a lot of things. Every year we're doing, we've listened to principals give us their campus improvement plans year after year, and we're targeting the subgroups, we're targeting this area, that area. So we've gone through a lot of that, and I guess, like I said, I'll stop, but that was just my initial impression of looking at these. And like I said, I could understand Shannon's explanation to some extent for college and career and military readiness, but I guess when I just looked at the early childhood, I was just, this is the area where if we get them here and we really push the envelope here, then the sky's the limit. And when I look at these percentages, they seem to be the floor more than the ceiling, and that's my initial impression. So I'll stop.
The only thing I would want to add to that too is that a lot of the conversation we've been having about community-based accountability talks to us about how STAR is not a complete accounting, and so what we're looking at is a goal that's based on what STAR can measure. And so there might, as we go through this, there might be additional things that we're working on in Kinder 1, 2, 3 as well, that as we start to report out through the benefit of being in these different programs, we might have more new learnings that kind of give us a more complete picture about what's happening with K 1, 2, 3 above and beyond what STAR is capable of measuring in terms of student competencies. And so I do think that's a good point that Jennifer and Becky and Jackie brought forward, the idea that this is the one goal that is required by a law to link specifically to a STAR metric, that a test that we don't write, that we're required to give to the children. It's really their first big high stakes test, and so there is nothing to say that we can't, as we get through this first COVID year and get STAR data in 2021, to say, wow, these guys are really rocking it. We could move it upwards at different campuses, but then recognizing too that different campuses are starting in different places and that their end goals might look different just a little bit as well.
Is that it, Jesse?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. No
Thank
more
you,
questions.
Thank you, Jesse. Do I have any other questions? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. And all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, ladies, for staying late. I know it's been a very long day for you, all three of you. So thank you very much for staying late and explaining all of this to us, and we appreciate your time. There we go. Now I can see you. Thank y'all. We'll move on to item F, update the 2016 bond program. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, we do have several projects that are in motion at this point, and so I do believe Gary is right there on time, and he's going to come update us on progress of our projects. Thank you, Gary.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Let's see. All right. All right. Well, good evening again. It's good to be back with you. I'm going to briefly go through where we are to date. We're kind of toward the end of the 2016 bond program, but still some things to do and still some things to yet to be done. So we'll start really with the 2020 renovation projects at Bear Creek. I'll go through a series of bullet points here, but you'll see, again, a commonality through some of these elementary campuses with door hardware, et cetera. But there's some specifics I want to touch on. The campus office, the access control system is complete, including there was a door that we had some issues with that leads to the controlled area. So that's now complete. At that control vestibule, the cabling test results were approved by the engineer. All that data information has to be tested, so that's now been approved. What's remaining really is the programming piece of that, the video intercom devices, really, and a couple of hardware devices, really to electrify that access control system. So that's yet to take place. It's happening now. And then the district will begin installing the check-in kiosks and training the personnel on those systems. So that's taking place. The campus received the Learning Commons area as of Monday, the 14th of September. So that's good. Furniture's going in and that's operational. There's some ceiling grid work and there's some powder coated areas above the tech hub stations. Those are going in mid-October. Projectors are going to be installed once that ceiling grid is installed. There's some control work on the HVAC side yet to be completed, and some door hardware still to be completed. So as I go through these pictures, I will touch on some of the items that we've talked about in the previous month or two, or board meetings with control systems, hardware, access control. Those were some devices and items that were late coming in, and so those are now arriving. We'll see some of that here in some of the other campuses. So really start to see some finished work here in the Learning Commons areas and some of the breakout spaces within those areas. Some of the broadcast areas are now finished. You can see some of the moving boxes and things of that nature with respect to furniture are now happening as well. So things are looking really good in the tech hub and some of the breakout reading areas associated with those Learning Commons areas are really looking good. Lighting's installed, ceilings, et cetera, in most of those areas. So really looking good at Bear Creek. At Bransford, campus office access control is now complete. The vestibule, again, the cabling test results are being approved or were approved by the engineers last week. There's a couple of hardware items regarding the request to exit functions at those doors, and a couple of hardware items yet to happen to electrify those systems. The Learning Commons area, again, was turned over on September 14th, on that Monday. There's some lighting work. The final lighting is being installed over that tech hub, so some of that lighting that was coming in a little bit late is now being installed. Blinds are being installed, exterior doors at the Learning Commons, and then again, more grid work at the tech hub stations is happening in October. So it's just, again, the picture on the left is where those security in the control vestibules, those kiosks are going to go, and then just more finished work in those maker spaces and breakout reading areas associated at the Learning Commons. Again, more finished work here. Those spaces look really, really good. They've done a good job finishing those up once again, the hardware and some of that ceiling work.
Gary, will you go back one, please? Mm-hmm. You see those red blocks in the wall on the left? You're going to see that at Bransford. You're going to find that over at Heritage Elementary. Those were specifically requested because of the octagons that we have at Cannon in their Learning Commons. So this was a way to create that in a space where we didn't have the same, exact same space to work with, but they were able to create that little reading nook that elementary kids just love.
Thanks for explaining that, because I looked at that and I was wondering what in the world.
I take it for granted that we tried to duplicate some of that really cool spaces at Cannon.
That is neat.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And then again, a wider shot there at the Learning Commons, furniture delivery, install, et cetera. So that's going well. And then more finished work at the Learning Commons and some of the breakout spaces, the tech hub and the broadcast area. So those are finished up and looking good. At Heritage Elementary School, again, same idea as the previous couple in terms of the access control. Testing of the systems are happening. Data and power have been run to the location for the kiosk. So that's good. A couple of hardware things still yet to be finished, but we're staying on top of that. The Learning Commons, again, September 14th, where they were all turned over pretty close to the same day. The gym air handler condensing unit, that'll be tentatively installed the weekend of the 12th. Again, that was one of the units that we had some trouble getting in, and so it will be here and installed on the 12th. And then some more grid work over the tech hub station there for the lighting. Left just some area there where the security kiosks will go. On the right, again, we did quite a bit of ceiling work in the Learning Commons, installed some new LED lighting and did some work there to access. We did some pretty significant HVAC work at this campus, so there was a lot of work associated with that picture right there. Left is the tech hub finished, and then again more moving boxes and stuff that continue to come in. So all's looking really good. There's a little bit more of the furniture install, the makerspace on the right. Again, just some finish up work here. Moving boxes still being unpacked, and just some finish work outside the Learning Commons area. At Colleyville Elementary School, the last of the hardware at the administrative area of that campus is finalizing now. The access control doors in the admin area that'll follow. There's power and data ready now for the kiosks. And then the district will begin installing and programming those kiosks. So that's ongoing. The power to the roller shades in the Commons area is now complete. And then again, the district began moving into the Learning Commons last week. So that's a pretty exciting space. They are utilizing the broadcast area a little bit more than you saw in some of the other pictures. So that's kind of how that shapes up. Learning Commons on the right. Unpacking boxes and books and such. So those areas really look, I don't know if you remember the colors in at Colleyville Elementary School. So that really brings us up to current, I guess is the right word. And then again, security kiosks in that control vestibule, and then some other unpacking and just finished up work in those rooms adjacent and within the learning commons. So. And then we move over to Colleyville Heritage High School. The Knox boxes have been installed. The building official, we had quite a few discussions with where and how and all that, and so those are now installed and approved by the building official. Video intercom and card readers are operational at that vestibule. There are temporary doors currently at the main entry vestibule. The new doors will arrive the 1st of October, so there's exterior doors you'll see in a picture in a minute, and then I'm talking about the ones at the entry vestibule beyond. So still waiting on those doors and hardware to come in. Roller shades were installed on 9/22, so that's good. That's in finally. In the auditorium, the ceiling-mounted fixtures have now been installed. If you recall, we're installing new lighting in the auditorium, so all that's installed. A lot of patchwork to be done on the ceiling is being completed now, and the new AV system installation will begin next week. So that's a big milestone there. The campus has been really, really gracious with the work that's had to go on in that area. So new PA system will be operational next week. The existing PA will be turned over in phases. And just so a quick explanation, it's such a large system for public address that it's hard to turn all of it over at once, and so you have to do it in phases. But it's a life safety issue, so you have to make sure it's operational every single time you make the transition or transfer over. So that's what that means. It's being done in phases, so it makes the fire marshal very happy. New fire alarm, the voice evac system is being finalized again with the city, and installation will begin next month, and replacing the baseball fence will begin in mid-November. And this is the new controlled vestibule. You know, that entrance was back 12, 13 feet from there, and so we brought that controlled vestibule out. And it's the set of doors beyond that is the one I talked about just a minute ago that we're still waiting on. So those are temporary access doors. You still have to come in and get into the office to get into the campus there. So on the right, more of the learning commons area. The left is really standing at those doors looking back out. And so there was a lot of concrete work to be done there to level that whole area to make sure it met ADA, et cetera. So that's all finished, and a little bit of makerspace work on the right. On the left, that is the control vestibule awaiting the security kiosks. And then again, more furniture installation for those breakout spaces in the commons. A lot of furniture install, moving around, but you can see the finished work on the floors and walls and ceilings. It's just really a great space in there. Moving to the swim center, the glass and glazing replacement has been complete on 4 of the big exterior windows. Locker installation is complete in the boys and girls locker rooms now. The timing system for the pool itself has been installed. Rooftop units are now operational. Our punch list is currently being addressed. We've done the punch list, and Lee Lewis is walking and repairing and doing the remedy work on that. And our engineering punch lists have been completed, and then the district is installing the new fire alarm system there too. So really close to being finished there. This is a couple of really nice shots of the finished work here. It's a great pool space, I might add. Again, new starting blocks, new ceiling fans, new lights over the pool. Really, that space is nice. If you haven't been in there, it turned out really, really nice. Triple Lindy. Well, I don't have anything to do after this, so we can certainly. Locker rooms, you can see the finished floor there, ceilings and paint, cabinet work, and some tech work there too. So that's finished up, looking really good at the swim center. The administration building renovation work, the interior punch list is complete. Yep, I was looking at that before I said that, because the last picture I showed was all this mess here. Yep, it's complete. The exterior flume work, concrete flume work, and the running of the existing storm drain system now. All of the exterior rock and the ground covering is complete. The exterior roof drains on the west side, over here by facing 26, have been tied in now. We learned a lot about storm drainage a minute ago, so I won't bore you with that. That's all tied in and operational now. There's some steps beyond. I'll show you the pictures. Those have been corrected now and finished up. The exterior landscaping has been completed around the building. We still have some issues with some plants that just don't want to stay alive, so we're still working on that. And exterior, really what this means, the beams and the waterproofing, et cetera, that we did, that's helping to create the barrier, and to the best of my knowledge, that's working really, really well. So here's some exterior shots, a couple of shots of our plants that don't quite want to stay alive just yet, but we'll remedy that. And then on the right, those are those steps I was telling you about that go up to that office area back there. Those have been corrected. On the left is that drainage flume and rock there for drainage, and that's working really nice. And then just some close-up shots. This was really a challenging storm drain project back there and around, and I feel at this point it's doing its job. So it's really nice and looks pretty good back there as well. I wanted to touch briefly on the stadium here, the galvanized beams. If you recall, there were some issues with the discoloring of a lot of those galvanized arches, both there and at the entry gate. And so we learned through a series of meetings and discussions with contractors is that there could have been some issues during transport and or fabrication with the galvanizing material. And then it got compounded in terms of what it looked like with some efforts to clean all of that. And so it left streaks. It left some black streaks, really some awful looking stuff. So those arches now have been repainted. It's a high performance coating on those arches, and they look really, really good. So both here at the entrance gate and all of the arches on the left and right hand side of the grandstands are now complete. So I thought that was it looks really, really good. And then just quickly on this channel study at Bear Creek, we'll be bringing back some more information to you in the near future. One of the things that the geotech firm recommends is some over excavation and compaction. This is kind of some preliminary results and findings. There's also some mention to replace the concrete panels at some of those side channels that have been compromised over time. So some of the settling have compromised some of these panels. So we're looking at all that. We're in design. We're just kind of looking at options. We'll take through mid-November to prepare, some things for the city to look at and review. And again, this specific work is outside of the 2016 bond program scope that we touched on a little bit ago. So. And then finally, the 2021 projects. I've updated the schedule just a little bit. COVID's kind of caused some kind of slowdown a little bit in meeting with folks and getting scope identified, but we're right here on track. The final, the document production and the issuance to Lee Lewis is still on track. So we're going to really come down to the sign and seal date. We kind of pushed through our document productions through the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, and it will ultimately come back to you on the February 2021 board meeting for approval of a GMP for that work. So that work will happen through the summer. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Gary. It's a late night for you also, so thank you for being here. Any questions for Gary? Becky?
When can we get in the swim center? It's a me question.
Just right at this. Well,
Just really briefly, roughly, and I'm not going to try to hold you to anything, but can you give us just a real quick, hopefully, maybe?
Gary said he has one good before we run after this meeting.
So the progress of the contractor that was hired to put in the fire alarm system is going really well, better than anticipated, quite honestly. And the kind of agreement with the fire marshal was, depending on the amount of progress that he saw by Tuesday, that's tomorrow, that he might be willing to consider the district posting a fire watch, which is to have our fire technician there at the point in time that we actually would consider having our students in the building itself using the pool. It really is to have a person act as if you had a fire alarm system in place, because that's who would call 911 if something was happening. So we're very hopeful that the progress that they made they started Wednesday afternoon of last week, and what they've been able to do up until this point in time. I talked to Ken this afternoon at 4. He felt like the fire marshal would be very pleased with their progress. They're actually projecting the ability to complete the work potentially by the end of this week, which means if we could have approval for a fire watch for 2 or 3 days, that's more likely. And that could mean that we're in the building sometime this week. I'm not promising that. Our due date all along was Thursday, so we're within striking distance of that. If we get the permission for the fire watch, then we'll be in the building on Thursday. If not, we're looking at maybe Monday or so. The other thing that we have to do is remember, when this got held up, it also prevented Lee Lewis from getting their certificate of occupancy. They've had their work done for over a month. So they still have to get their CO after this fire alarm system goes into place. So it may just be our immediate students that are able to use our building and no one else. But I will say that this contractor that's been working on creating the drawings and putting the system in has done a terrific job. They really finished this week. They're a week ahead of schedule from what they had told us originally.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula.
Any other questions? Well, you have 2 right here that can be your fire watchers. They can go practice whether. I think they just volunteered for you, so.
We could even bring fire if that helps.
The pool.
No, you just stand there and make the sound.
Got it.
If anything. Yeah, there you go. You have plenty of water. No other questions. Gary, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Move on to item G, review owner contingency expenditures.
Yes, we just have a few owner contingency expenditures for each of the 3 projects for your review.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item H, review the 2020-2021 board planning calendar.
Just a couple of changes on the board planning calendar, pushing the AP exam results from this month to next month. I think we still don't have one set of results that are in. They haven't come in yet, and so we'll push that to next month. And then you can see the homecoming festivities have all been moved to November.
And the interim review moved to October.
Right.
And all of you remember that's going to be Monday, October 5th at 5:30. Move on to, any questions? I'm sorry. Move on to item I, request for reports to the board. Do I have any? No? Move on to consent agenda for approval.
Madam President?
Yes, sir?
Yes, I'd like, on the consent agenda, I'd like to pull item Q, please.
Thank you, Jesse. Any other items need to be pulled? Okay. Can I then have a motion for items A through P?
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve items A through P on the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Jesse. In a second. Doug, thank you. Any questions? All those in favor of items A through P? Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Item Q, bid on technology-related services, equipment, and software. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, this is an update on the bid for technology and software. The recommendation is for the Board of Trustees to award the supplemental proposal for technology services, equipment, and software to Learning A through Z, Elementary LLC, AIA Technologies, Positive Proof Incorporated, Bass Computers Incorporated, Notable Incorporated, Silicon Mountain Memory, WTK LLC, Benchmark Education Company LLC, Southern Computer Warehouse or SWC, Summit Integration Services, Troxel Communications, Generation Genius, Voyager Sopris Learning, Explorer Learning LLC, and Polaris Software LLC.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Doug. And a second? Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to just have the record show that I will be abstaining from this vote, please.
Thank you, Jesse. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then all those in favor of item O? Opposed? And abstaining. Motion carries 6-0 with Trustee Jesse Rodriguez abstaining. Move on to announcements. I'll say TASA TASB starts Wednesday, and that again will be virtual, but you getting a little spoiled. You know, you can attend all this, but and be able to multitask while you're doing it. And I want to say kudos to Mindy. Mindy took her son to Scotland to go to college. It is 3:30 there. Well, no, not anymore. In the morning.
It's 4:45.
She's been with us since 1:30 in the morning. So, Mindy, thank you for being there. What a great experience and opportunity for Jay and your family. But thank you for joining us tonight. We do appreciate that. And another thing, and I don't know if it was in, but we had 3 churches. 121 Church on the Cross. It was a Grapevine Baptist or Methodist? Baptist Church. They came together and took gift certificates to every single school in our district. And what a great partnership with them also. I just wanted to let the community know about that. Just what a great way to love on the teachers and the staff at this time. So thank
so that was a $15 gift card for every staff person, not just teachers, but that
it was
the goal.
Again, just great opportunity they can to love on the staff and the teachers and show them how much they are appreciated during this time. Was wonderful. So, any announcements from you? No? Anybody? No? And I need 2 more times, Jesse. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second, Becky. Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 10:46. Gap.